Dallas-Fort Worth area broadcasters bring you a special description of the arrival of President John F. Kennedy. At this moment, 3 special jetliners are supposed to be in the air between Dallas and Fort Worth. They were scheduled to take off a few moments ago from Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth for the brief flight to Dallas. Mr. and Mrs. Kennedy and their official party began their Texas tour yesterday morning when they departed Washington. From there, they have visited Houston, San Antonio, then on to Fort Worth, where they spent last night. If time allows, we'll bring you up to date on their stops at those 3 previous points. But right now, the eyes of Texas and the nation are focused on Dallas. And this is the heart of a real political tempest. If you'll recall, it wasn't too many weeks ago that UN Ambassador Adlai Stevenson was given pretty rude treatment during a visit here. This put the spotlight on Big D, and the glare lingers. This predominantly Republican area is rather notorious for its disregard of protocol where dignitaries are concerned. And to avoid any embarrassing incidents today, the tightest possible security measures are in effect. The Secret Service has been on the quiet prowl in Dallas for many days, checking the routes of travel, the people who will be in close contact with the president, the food he will eat, the cars he rides in, everything and anything involving the security of the chief executive has been checked, rechecked, and then checked again. And those of us here in the radio, TV, and press area have undergone exhaustive security investigation. Our broadcast equipment has been examined. In short, nothing is being left to chance where the president's security and safety are concerned. We're located atop a huge broadcasting truck right near the Love Field Freight Terminal. We have an excellent view of the landing area and the dignitaries who will be greeting the president as he arrives. An area selected to afford maximum viewing for the public and fast access to the route of travel the motorcade will use into downtown Dallas. The crowd size at this moment we would estimate to be in the vicinity of 2,000. They began arriving this morning, at about 9 o'clock. We saw the first sprinkling of the public easing in, but the parking lots are now jammed almost to capacity, and there are many signs in evidence. We'll tell you about those placards in a few moments. The weather had been a big concern, and as you recall, early this morning, Dallas was having heavy rain, and it looked like a very dismal condition for greeting the president and his official party. But at approximately 9:30, the rain stopped, the wind picked up and shifted, and now there are hardly any clouds in the northern skies. The wind is now coming roughly out of the southeast, and we have a brilliant sun overhead. So weather conditions have improved considerably, but there is a heavy, gusty wind. Actually, there are 3 big jetliners in the air between Dallas and Fort Worth right now. Air Force number 1, of course, is Mr. Kennedy's plane. Next is Vice President Lyndon Johnson's jet, and then the jet carrying other members of the official traveling party, including the White House press corps, those reporters and photographers who always travel with the president, no matter where he goes. Protocol dictates that the president's plane is the first to take off. Then comes the vice president's plane. But this protocol, as those of us who cover these events found out a long time ago, is a very strange animal. It then states that the vice president's plane lands first so he can be on hand to greet the president. The pilots have been busy in these past few days practicing takeoffs and landings from Carswell and at Love Field so the proper order of appearance can be carried out. For those of you who plan to try and catch a glimpse of the fast-moving president and first lady, here's the route of travel they're going to be covering from Love Field to the Trade Mart, where the president will make his luncheon speech. The motorcade departs Love Field, then it goes Mockingbird Lane to Lemon Avenue, south on Lemon to Turtle Creek, Cedar Springs, then through the downtown area on Harwood to Maine. The main route of travel will be west on Maine to Houston, then through the Triple Underpass to Clemens Freeway, and on to the Trade Mart. The return to Love Field will be the quickest possible route after the luncheon, Harry Hines to Mockingbird, and then here to the airport. Returning to the security aspects of this operation, and one big jet has just come in, another is now approaching from the south. But on these security features, the special car for the president has been flown in from Washington. It's sitting directly below us right now. It's the huge plastic bubble-top limousine that affords the president maximum protection from the weather and yet allows the public to see him. However, since the weather has cleared, the bubble top has been removed and the president will be riding in the open. That car was flown in here last night from Washington, and the big Air Force transport that brought it is now directly across the field from us. Here comes the second of the official jets. We can't determine from here whether that is Air Force One or the Vice President's plane. We will know shortly. It's now making its rather bumpy run down the runway at this time. We see another jet to the south coming in. Perhaps that is the presidential plane. Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry has told the citizens and visitors that nothing must occur that will be disrespectful or degrading to the president. Now, we see in brilliant evidence right now a Texas flag and a huge Confederate flag flying. Most of the smaller signs are hooray for JFK, then JFK and LBJ in 64, and we're with you all the way. But there are those opposition signs. One reading, Help Kennedy, Stamp Out Democracy. Now, the officials are not going to concern themselves any real deep worry just about the display of these banners, but any untoward motion that might be made toward the official presidential party, well, we'll describe that for you if we're within viewing range. The chief of police, incidentally, who stands right below us, has in effect deputized citizens who see any incidents brewing to take action to put them down. Hundreds of additional policemen are on hand. The motorcade route is closely watched, carefully plotted and planned. It's our hope that the only noteworthy event today will be Mr. Kennedy's arrival, the speech, the weather, and his departure. In the crowds, all of these placards, as we have described, many of them really too small to read from the distance where we stand right now. The first big jet to come in is unloading the White House press corps. There are chartered buses parked alongside the Red Concourse terminal, and these buses will take them along the official route of the motorcade and then on to the Trade Mart. The official greeting party is on hand. Mayor and Mrs. Earl Cabell, and Dr. Lloyd V. Buckner, and County Judge Lou Sterrett, and Mr. Eric Johnson. There are many in the official greeting party, and their 5 big, shiny black limousines are parked directly behind this huge van from where we enjoy our vantage point at this time. It looks like a police convention. We have never seen as many Dallas police officers in one location in all of our years of covering Dallas news, but they are here in great profusion. Actually, Love Field has not been closed down completely. There has been a delay on the arrival and departure of planes, stacking them up here until the presidential party can be cleared. The first of the 2 big official jets is now taxiing just below us, and here comes Air Force Number 1, the president's plane, now touching down. Its wheels are down, and the president and Mrs. Kennedy have arrived at Dallas Love Field. The plane bearing Vice President and Mrs. Johnson is now taxiing. You can certainly hear it in the background. It is taxiing directly in front of us at this moment. Stone throw of the Vice President's plane. And Air Force Number 1, the presidential plane, has now dropped its flaps. It's coming to a halt on the north-south runway and will soon be here at the unloading area. The parking of these giant jets has been somewhat of a problem. They want to afford maximum clearance for the 3 official party planes. There have been reports that Mr. Kennedy would perhaps make some remarks while here at Love Field, but a check less than an hour ago with the officials indicates he will not. The official greeting party is consisting of the Vice President and Mrs. Johnson, of course, the mayor, and many other of the county and state officials. Still no sign of any unloading from the Vice Presidential plane. They're wheeling the big loading ramps up at this moment. This has been billed as a non-political tour. But as one courthouse sage put it just the other day, how non-political can you be if you're the president? From the Democratic standpoint, the entire state is in a condition of upheaval right now, and it boils down to a matter of liberal versus conservative within the party itself. Mr. Kennedy made some mention of that last night in Houston when he took a verbal swipe at the warring factions of the party. And now the Vice President's party is deplaning. They are coming down the loading stairs. We have counted 12 people leaving to this moment. No sign yet of the Vice President and Mrs. Johnson. In the case of this Dallas luncheon, which they all will be hurrying to, Senior Democratic Senator Ralph Yarborough was for a time left off the list of names at the head table. It is our understanding, however, that all of that was cleared up and that he is aboard the Vice President's plane. Now the situation has been resolved, however. A plane landed here at Love Field earlier this week, bearing almost 5,000 roses from California. And the huge bouquets to be presented to Mrs. Johnson. Just now they have been presented to her as we see her coming down the stairs. And the one to be presented to the First Lady were carried out just at the base of our van here only a moment ago. And here comes the presidential plane, Air Force Number 1, now taxiing down the taxi strip. It will be parking up even closer to us than did the Vice President's plane. A brilliant yellow rose bouquet given to Mrs. Johnson, who is now walking over to the automobile loading area. And the flowers to be given to the First Lady are long-stemmed red roses. And a beautiful bouquet they are. The security precautions at this luncheon they're going to attend range from the distance from the President's car door to the Trade Mart entrance and to how many doors and windows are in the building, and even the method of selecting the steak the President will eat. Now, most of these stations will be broadcasting the President's speech from the Trade Mart in just a few moments, so we urge you to stay tuned for our live and special pickup from that location. And here is the presidential jet, U.S. Air Force Number 1, printed on the side, and it is right in front of us at this moment. We're going to have an excellent view of the President and the First Lady as they step off this jet. And already Love Field traffic has resumed as those planes that had stacked up waiting are now taking off. And the crowd begins its cheer, which you can't hear over the whistle and hum of the jet. But handkerchiefs are being waved, the placards are being held high, and hundreds of tiny American flags are now being waved toward the presidential jet. The doors fly open, and the loading ladders are being wheeled into place. This is a split-second timed operation for the Secret Service and the Air Force and the Signal Corps. Nothing left to chance. Every possible precaution has been taken. And now, the President and First Lady will be departing in just a moment. Vice President and Mrs. Johnson are stepping to the foot of the ladder. Two members of the Special Air Force Honor Guard who accompany the President on these flights have stepped to the foot of the ladder. They are standing at rigid attention. The reception line is formed, and there is Mrs. Kennedy, the First Lady, stepping from the plane, wearing a bright pink suit with a dark fur collar and a matching pink hat, and the President wearing a dark suit steps off directly behind. Then comes Governor and Mrs. John Connelly and Senator Ralph Yarborough. He rode the presidential plane rather than the vice presidential plane. The usual handshakes, the official greetings. Mrs. Kennedy has been presented her bouquet of brilliant red roses, and they make a lovely contrast to the bright pink suit she is wearing. For the ladies in the audience, once again, it's a bright pink suit. She is wearing black shoes, a black fur collar, and a pink pillbox hat. And that is just about the extent of our ability to explain what any lady is wearing, but she does make a very striking picture as she touches the huge bouquet of bright red roses. The handshake line is long, but already the official party has performed its greeting. The President has stopped momentarily to chat with someone whom we can't recognize from this distance because so many people are crowded around that particular area. But in a very few moments, they will be stepping into the official limousine, and then this fast ride through the downtown area to the Trade Mart where the luncheon will be held. The weather couldn't be better. We have a brilliant sun at this moment. The wind has diminished considerably, and it has turned into a comfortable situation for the hundreds of people who came here to Dallas Love Field to witness the arrival of the President and his First Lady. The official police guard is now forming. The motorcade will be led by some 30 motorcycle-born policemen whom we have seen here throughout the morning as all of this police corps has assembled. The normal Love Field jet and regular plane traffic has resumed. There is a jam-up at this moment Outside the official automobile, the president has not yet made his way into the limousine. The First Lady is directly behind him. He is now being escorted to the limousine. The crowd is being pushed back. Now, when we say crowd, we do not mean the public. These are the photographers and those in the official greeting party, because the public is contained behind the usual love field chain-link fences that are keeping them from spilling in to the presidential reception area. Now we see the other official members of the greeting party, Dr. Berkner, Mayor and Mrs. Cabell, Mr. Eric Johnston, Judge Lou Sterrett. They're now walking over here. They will have to come through a gate directly in front of our vantage point in order to find their way into the limousines that are waiting to take them in this motorcade. The presidential car is now occupied. They're clearing the photographers and the other bystanders out of the way, and in just a moment it will be coming almost directly below us and forming in this motorcade. We will be able to give you a more accurate description of the President and First Lady as they pass here. Now, those of you who are waiting along the parade route, just to be sure that you find yourself in the proper location, let's give it to you once again. The party is now ready to depart Love Field. It will go Mockingbird Lane to Lemon Avenue, then travel south on Lemon to Turtle Creek, Cedar Springs, through the downtown area on Harwood to Maine, west on Maine to Houston, through the Triple Underpass to Stemmons Freeway, then on to the Trade Mart. And the return to Love Field will be much faster. They will simply go out Harry Hines Boulevard to Mockingbird and then here to the airport. Departure time from the airport is scheduled for approximately 2:30. And another reminder, those of you who will be wanting to hear the President's address at the Trade Mart, most of these stations in the special Dallas-Fort Worth area broadcasters coverage will be carrying the President's address live in just a very few moments, and you will be able to hear his remarks there. Other of the stations will be broadcasting highlight excerpts of the President's speech throughout the afternoon and evening. The press, radio, and TV corps covering this event today is huge. There are literally hundreds of reporters on hand, including those of the special White House press corps who always accompany the President. And now, the President's special limousine has begun to move slowly forward. Police Chief Jesse Curry and Dallas County Sheriff Bill Decker are directly in front of this car, Chief Curry driving his own personal car to lead the way for this motorcade. The President's car is being delayed momentarily. We can't see from here exactly what is holding it up. Yes, we can, too. He has now decided to shake hands with one or two more people, and that is the cause for the delay. But this is the moment where the Secret Service has its point of tension. As we have talked with many of these Secret Service men in the past few days who've arranged for the President's security, they say when the President stops moving, that's when we're concerned, because that is when the possibility of trouble comes to the forefront. And here comes the President now. In fact, he's not in his limousine. He's departed the limousine, and he is walking. He is reaching across the fence, shaking hands with many of the people who have come here to see him. He is closely accompanied by Dallas police officers and, of course, the Secret Service. But Mr. Kennedy stepped out of the automobile. He is now shaking hands. Mrs. Kennedy is right behind him, and they are walking along the line of the fence, shaking hands with some of the hundreds of people who have come here to view their arrival. Now, this is a distinct departure from the plan that had been set forth many days ago. And now here's Mrs. Lyndon Johnson. She also is going along. So is the Vice President. They're making their way along the line of the fence and still are not in the official limousine. The only members of the official party in the presidential limousine who didn't depart are Governor and Mrs. Connelly. They have stayed in the limousine. But the President, the First Lady, the Vice President, and Mrs. Lyndon Johnson all are walking along the edge of this fence, shaking hands with the crowd. And they are being greeted by placards of varying emotion and political feeling. Those saying, "We're with you all the way, JFK," and those saying, "Help JFK stamp out democracy." So he is seeing Dallas County politics at at the height of a very boiling moment in Dallas political history. Thousands of children now swarming, trying to get over the fence, the Dallas police trying to keep them back, and the security is tense at this time, but is going beautifully. Vice President and Mrs. Johnson are, some 25 to 30 feet behind the President and the First Lady in the handshaking tour, the unofficial, unscheduled handshaking tour. And now, the President and First Lady are retreating from the fence. They're heading now for the official limousine where Governor Connelly stands, waiting their arrival so that they can make their way downtown and out to the Trade Mart. But this was one of those impromptu moments for which President Kennedy is so well known. So many times you have heard that the Secret Service men suddenly find themselves without the President, that suddenly he has left them and stepped into the crowd, the milling throng, and decided to shake hands and give his personal greetings. And this, once again, he did. So you could say perhaps that this is more the norm now than the unexpected, because it has been done so many times. And there's the gunmetal gray limousine, blue and gray, pulling away now from the fenced area. The President and Mrs. Kennedy seated on the back seat, Governor and Mrs. Connelly on the second seats or jump seats, and then the official driver and Secret Service men are in the front seat. And immediately behind them, another car swarming with the Secret Service. Making its way through the rain puddles left by this early morning rain, and all of the other vehicles in the official motorcade are now falling into line, and the trip to downtown Dallas and the Trade Mart is underway. Another group of spectators lining a parking lot area. The presidential car has slowed down so that they may see and that he may wave to them. But now the motorcycle escort, a flying wedge of some 12 Dallas police motorcycles leading the way, and the pace is picking up as they head for the departure gate and the trip downtown to the Trade Mart. This has been a special broadcast of the arrival of the official presidential party. President and Mrs. Kennedy, Vice President and Mrs. Lyndon Johnson, and other members of the official party as they arrive in Dallas today, where they will attend the luncheon and the President will make an address. They will depart here at 2:30 for Bergstrom Air Force Base at Austin. Then will be overnight guests at the LBJ Ranch, and then they will unofficially, our schedule says, they will depart at noon tomorrow for Washington. So the party is now leaving Dallas Love Field, and the spectators are scrambling. It looks like bargain day right after Christmas, as thousands of people dash madly to get another view of the President as he and his First Lady depart Love Field. The special broadcast, a full effort on the part of the Dallas-Fort Worth area broadcasters. We have been speaking from atop a huge broadcasting van where we hope we've given you somewhat of a word picture of what has occurred here today. And now we return you to your local studios from Dallas Love Field.
KLIS 1190 with 50,000 watts of fun.
Don't do that, please stop it now. You know I can't take it, please stop it now. My head is spinning in a spell now. My head is spinning.
My head is spinning.
4 minutes of the Larry Wilson program at KLIF, making whooping time. 4 minutes now before 12 o'clock. Rex Jones in here at 12:05 today with lots more for you.
The first of the two most glorious holidays of the year is coming, so it won't be long before you make a most important meat purchase. Yes, Thanksgiving is only days away, and this happy holiday will be just a little better this year if a little forethought goes into the purchase of the traditional turkey. Naturally, you want a turkey that gives you extra meat per pound. And if you're like most families, you'll want a turkey that offers more of the moist, sweet, absolutely delicious white meat per pound. There are turkeys that meet these requirements. You'll find them at your grocer's bearing the famous Armour Star. Yes, ma'am, I'm talking about Armour Star broad-breasted turkeys, government inspected and graded to assure your family a very special treat this Thanksgiving. Armour Star turkeys have moderately long, deep, well-rounded breasts with extra white meat, plenty of dark meat, too. When you shop at your grocer's for that Thanksgiving turkey, get an Armour Star broad-breasted turkey, government inspected and graded to assure you of the very best. Armour Star, best by far.
Well, 3 minutes now before 12 o'clock. That's KLIF making whoopee time. We've got 63 degrees right now.
On portable TV, Sylvania brings you the exciting new trends for 1964 with exclusive power screen chassis that brings you crisper, brighter, sharper pictures than you've ever seen before. Circuitry so new it's patented. A new trend in viewing convenience. A curtain timer clock that turns your favorite programs on and off automatically. Sylvania also gives you a bonded shield picture tube in every TV. Out front sound. New sculptured cabinetry with up-to-the-minute styling. Also new from Sylvania, Dynamic America console TV. With bonded shield picture tube, the power screen chassis, beautifully styled cabinetry, and all at prices that will convince you that Sylvania is your best TV buy. During Sylvania's fall celebration sale, you'll find 19-inch TV sets starting as low as $129.95. And when you visit your Sylvania dealer, be sure to register for the free portable 19-inch Sylvania TV, or one of the many clock or table model radios to be given away.
Well, okay, in Irving, you visit Manning TV Sales, 1820 West Shady Grove. This is Sonny, and this is the way we close it out today. Rags to riches.
I know I go from rags to riches. If you would only say you can. Although my pockets may be empty, I'd be a millionaire. My clothes may still be torn and tattered, but in my heart I'd be a king. Your love is all that ever matters. You're everything. So open your heart and you'll open the door to all the treasures I'm looking for. Hold me, kiss me, and say you'll be mine evermore. Must I forever be obedient? Whose golden dreams will not come true? Or will I go from rags to riches? My fate is just to you. So open your heart and you'll open the door to all the treasures that I'm hoping for. Hold me, kiss me, and say you'll be mine evermore. Must I forever be obedient? Whose golden dreams will not come true?
KLIF AM FM 1190
Will I go from rags to riches? My fate is up to you.
You expect more Total Contact News on KLIF. And you get it.
Our service to Dallas of your neighborhood thrifty food store. Dallas. It was a late date for President Kennedy this morning as he got away from Fort Worth 10 minutes late. The chief executive spoke to a Fort Worth breakfast before he enplaned for Big Day. The official greeting party, including Mayor Earl Cabot, Judge Lou Sterrett, Eric Johnson, and others, were on hand to welcome Mr. Kennedy at Love Field. Air Force plane number 1, the president's plane, arrived at 11:38 a.m., just 3 minutes overdue. On his non-political tour, Mr. Kennedy and his motorcade left Love Field to travel along Lemon Avenue to Turtle Creek to Cedar Springs to Harwood to Maine, then to Stemmons and the Trade Mart for lunch. During his speech in Fort Worth, Mr. Kennedy said in 1964, the U.S. would test a booster so powerful that this nation would leave Russia far behind in the space race. As if Mother Nature was watching the president's arrival, the sun beamed down on Love Field as the president arrived. This was a portion of Mr. Kennedy's speech as he addressed the Fort Worth breakfast.
Combined military-civilian defense payroll is well over $1 billion. I don't recite these for any partisan purpose. They're the result of American determination to be second to none.
President Kennedy commenting on the nation's defense effort and the part that Texas played. Fort Worth, Governor John Connelly commented today on the chilly relationship between him and U.S. Senator Ralph Yarborough of Texas, saying with a chuckle,
and yet Fort Worth and what it does and what it produces participates in all these great historic advancements. Texas as a whole and Fort Worth bear particular responsibility for this national defense effort. For military procurement in this state totals nearly $1.25 billion, fifth highest among all the states of the Union. There are more military personnel on active duty in this state than any in the nation, save one. And it's not Massachusetts. Any in the nation, save one.
And most believe the rift is deeper than it really is. Connelly said at a news conference in Fort Worth that he had not even discussed the matter with President Kennedy because, as he put it, I didn't think it was important enough. Amarillo. Twin cold fronts are moving through Texas, setting off scattered rainfall and promising lowered temperatures over the state. One front is moving in from the west, the other from the northwest. A squall line moving ahead of the fronts poured a half-inch of rain on Henderson in East Texas in just 15 minutes. Temperatures plunged 10 degrees and winds gusted to 55 miles an hour. The winds knocked down a few tree limbs but otherwise caused no damage.
Grab your hats, folks, and hurry to your Thrifty Food Store. It's Thrifty's Big Del Monte Dollar Day sale with red-hot specials for Thanksgiving. Famous Del Monte pineapple juice or pineapple grapefruit drink, for example, one. Never too tart and never too sweet. Big 46-ounce can, 3 for $1. Another Thrifty special, Del Monte corn with that sweeter flavor. Enjoy rich roasting ear goodness. Your choice of family style or whole kernel. Number 303 can, 6 for $1. More Thrifty scoops, Del Monte early garden peas. Tempting, tender Del Monte peas chock full of early garden goodness. Number 303 can, 5 for $1, and that's not all. Del Monte fruit cocktail. Luscious hand-picked Del Monte fruits combining juicy peaches, pears, grapes, pineapple, and bright red cherries. Number 303 can, 5 for $1. Now during the Del Monte Dollar Day sale at your Thrifty Food Store. Shop at your home-owned Thrifty Food Store.
Dallas weather, mostly cloudy and cooler this afternoon. Partly cloudy and colder tonight. Fair Saturday, high both today, 62, low tonight, 38. Current conditions, the barometric pressure study at 29.87. Wind is out of the west-southwest at 15 miles per hour. Relative humidity 65%. KLIF temperature 63 degrees. Since now, to 12 noon. Priority one headline. President Kennedy arrives at Love Field as about 2,000 Dallasites greet him. This edition of KLIF News has been brought to you by Thrifty Food Stores. Gary DeLon speaking. This is KLIF News.
Memory
and a great big hearty welcome to edition number 5 of the Rex Jones Go Around from Big Clip and Big D. Going to be here for the better part of 3 hours, playing all the great big top pops of the day for you in the fond hope of satisfying your musical taste, whatever that might be. As a matter of fact, a couple of those old memory-making sounds, too, from here to there. Say, if one of your family should get hurt, would you know what to do? Well, make certain by joining a medical self-help class. Classes are being organized right now in Dallas County. Call Riverside 89711, station 1271, for information.
There's lots of sunshine in all of Texas with KLIS 1190.
Don't know about all of Texas, but there's a whole bunch of it right here in Big D, and that's what we're worried about.
The KLIF countdown counts the number of times you hear from now until you hear a call for the whoopee count. When you hear the call for the whoopee count, if you're the third person to call Riverside 7-6000, you'll win $11.90 in Cliff cash. Remember, whoopee! Do I count that one? Not if you want to win.
Forget him if he doesn't love you. Forget him if he doesn't care. Don't let him tell you that he wants you, 'cause he can't give you love which isn't there. Oh, little girl, he's never dreaming of you. He'll break your heart, you wait and see. So don't you cry now, just tell him goodbye now, forget him, and please come home to me. Don't let him tell you that he wants you, 'cause he can't give you love which isn't there. Oh, little girl, he's never dreaming of you. He'll break your heart, you wait and see. So don't you cry now, just tell him goodbye now, forget him, and please come home to me. No, don't you cry now, better tell him goodbye now, forget him, and please come home to me.
Certainly a real winner for you from KLIF in Dallas on the Rex Jones program. We listen to Forget Him, the brand newest by Bobby Rydell. Well, thank you.
And gee, with delicious Nestle chocolate bars, there's always a choice. And what girl doesn't like a little choice in her life?
Yeah.
If you like the sweet, smooth, creamy type, you can have Nestle milk chocolate. Or if you prefer a bar with an extra special crunchy snap to it, try a Nestle Crunch bar. Or if you want a milk chocolate bar filled with nuts, they're Nestle almond bars. Chocolate bars. And be sure to get plenty. Just look for those bags of 10 at a special low price. 10 Nestle Crunch, 10 milk chocolate, or 10 almond bars. Gee, don't you wish you had your choice of boyfriends like you have your choice of Nestle chocolate bars?
Honey, if you think of anything else, I wish you'd come back and tell us about it, would you? I'd appreciate it more than just somewhat. Right now, we're looking at 63 great big degrees from KLIF in Dallas, the Rex Jones program in session. Watch the cuddly kitten in giant size. It's the giant balloon parade in downtown Dallas at 10 o'clock, Saturday, November 23rd. That's tomorrow morning, of course. See it. It's the largest, the biggest, the greatest ever before. And Charlie and Harrigan are going to be right there amongst everybody, so watch for them.
The next time you want a real fine brew, change to Carling.
So lively, light, so right for you.
Black Label beer, you'll like it too.
I say there, we have a brand new one here by Bobby Darin that I think that you're going to like more than somewhat. This is a cliff climber is the way we'll have to describe it. It's called Be Mad Little Girl, and from all indications, early indications, the early results are in, friends. This is going to be a great big hit. Bobby Darin with that one. Be mad, little girl. You watch out for it as an honored member of the Instant Top 40 at KLIF before too very much time goes by.
Trick-tock, wet-tock, trick-tock, wet-tock. There's a wet-tock gift for everyone around your Christmas tree.
Clocks and watches of quality. Wet-tock are so handsomely. A single trick gets the shopping done with a wet-tock gift for everyone.
When it's time to give, choose a gift of West Clocks Time. Choose Big or Baby Ben alarm clocks. With adjustable loud, soft alarm, quiet tick, and a single key to wind both time and alarm. Big or Baby Ben will wish happiness for as little as $7.98. Give Big or Baby Ben by West Clocks. They're great to give, grand to get.
West Clocks, Christmas time for West Clocks, West Clocks, West Clocks, West Clocks time.
Well, I say there, friend, remember you can buy travel clocks and other fine West Clocks products at all 43 Skiller's drugstores in Dallas. Right now, looking at 15 minutes after lunchtime on the Rex Jones program from KLIF.
KLIF 1190.
Upcoming for you. You ain't wrong. Upcoming for you, a Cliff classic with Ray Charles.
That's exotic music. And it matches the look of my new foreign coin bracelet. The glamorous Hamilton bracelet being offered by the millers of Light Crust Flour. Light Crust has made it possible for you to have one of these handsome bracelets for only $1.50. It's a $4.95 value. Send in the coupon from the specially marked Light Crust Flour box and $1.50. But don't just send for one. Remember, Christmas is coming. And you can't buy these elegant bracelets anywhere, even in the finest specialty shops. They're yours only with Light Crust Flour. Take home several boxes of that wonderful Light Crust Flour, cut out the coupons, and send in for several of these rich-looking Hamilton gold-plated coin bracelets. Do hurry. You'll be happy if you do. That's a promise from Light Crust. Fresher flour, boxed for fresher baking.
You're making whoopee with KLIF at 1190 in Dallas.
The other night, as I lay sleeping, I dream I held you in my arms. But when I woke up this morning, found out I was mistaken. Do you know that I hung my head and cried? Oh, you are my sunshine. Oh, my only sunshine.
Charles, and please don't take my sunshine away. A Cliff classic from last year.
Stop that discord. Let's hear those same instruments in tune. What a difference. I'm Galen Drake. I often compare people to sensitive instruments. Simple nervous tension can make you feel out of tune with your family and friends. The tight, taut nerves, the feeling you can't face responsibilities. You won't put up with a headache. Why put up with simple nervous tension? Take Compose. Compose is a sedative for the temporary relief of simple nervous tension. Compose does for tension what aspirin does for headache. Compose, taken as directed, helps calm you to feel relaxed. So remember this common sense rule. Headache, take aspirin. Tension, take Compose. C-O-M-P-O-Z. Compose.
This afternoon on KLIF at 3:05, it'll be the Ken Dow program.
Oh, it's a good day. KLIF 1190.
It is a good day, 263 right now, and it's going up. Hang on, there's Gwen.
This is the way we take a bath. This is the way we take a bath with wonderful, wonderful Sardo. Wonderful, wonderful Sardo. That's the way we take our baths because we don't want dry skin, do we? And Sardo bathes away dry skin as we bathe. Sounds impossible. No creams, no lotions to struggle with. Sardo can bathe away dry skin. It's true. I know. My skin used to be so dry it itched. Now I'm as smooth as silk all over. Isn't that delicious? Smooth as silk all over. Remember those knees, all rough and red? And elbows and heels? Now I'm an old smoothie. Oops, now I'm a young smoothie. The years don't count when you look young. Bless the day I discovered Sardo.
Start today to bathe away dry skin. Get Sardo at your favorite drug or cosmetic counter.
Hey, this is the Twisting Punch. KLIF 1190.
And the pretty is too. This is Miss Brenda Lee.
The sun comes up and brings the dawn. As you when I awake, I find you gone. And you but I can't find a way to let this crazy heart of mine forget. I pretend you're still beside me, as usual. Each evening
is Brenda Lee in our Cliff King Climber, as usual. One that you're hearing exclusively first, right here at 1190 on your ever-loving Brenda Lee, who really tears it up on that one going all the way to great big musical fame and fortune.
People are talking, talking, night and day. People are talking, talking.
And my dear, you should hear what they say.
Fashion-wise women discover Medallion. From millinery to shoes, from lingerie to the latest in fashion, sportswear, jewelry, and accessories, the fashion-wise woman shops Medallion. Well-dressed men discover Medallion. Suits, shoes, sportswear, furnishings, well-dressed men shop Medallion. Boys and girls, young men and young women all discover Medallion. From infants' needs to the newest styles, from sporting goods to housewares, from cosmetics to famous brand appliances, from toys to records, Medallion has the quality you count on at the price you want to pay. If you don't already have your Medallion charge account, find out how easy it is to open. Medallion Northwest Highway at Abrams Road is open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. till 9 p.m. Saturday, 9:30 a.m. till 6.
People are talking, talking, night and day.
All right, Dallas, you're on the go with the Rex Jones Show from the mighty 1190.
You're moving on KLIF 1190. Where the music brings everything.
26 minutes now after 12 o'clock be the time, making whoopee time from KLIF. Say, Mama, next to your electric clothes washer, what's the clothes-savingest appliance that you can own? Well, an electric clothes dryer, but of course, when you dry clothes the modern electric way, you'll never have to carry heavy, wet laundry to an outside clothesline. No more. No more piece-by-piece hanging of individual items either. Just put wet laundry in your automatic electric dryer, you set it, and forget all about it. You'll have laundry that's soft and sunshine fresh and fluffy dry, regardless of outside weather conditions. And electric dryers use only clean electric heat, and that means a lot to you. White clothes stay white because there's nothing cleaner than electricity. Dallas Power and Light Company suggests see your appliance dealer for a modern, flameless electric clothes dryer. Next to your clothes washer, the electric dryer, of course, is the clothes-savingest appliance that you'll ever own because electricity does it so much better.
When some loud bragger tries to put me down and says this fool is great,
give him a left jab.
I tell him right away, now what's the matter, buddy? Ain't you heard of my school? It's number one in the state. Hey, take it away! Get your phone right!
Boys would be true to your cotton-picking school, whatever in the world you do, and that is Instant Survey Sound on the Big Cliff. Instant Top 40, number 5 for today.
G.W. McClintock held clear title to every foot of the Mesa Verde, a stand of land that gulped up mile after mile of the lush, reckless West. And if it wasn't clear in your mind, McClintock had a special way of putting it back in place.
But, Pilgrim, you caused a lot of trouble this morning. Might have got somebody killed. And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. hell I was.
Roaring, fist-thudding, knee-walloping John Wayne masterpiece. McClintock, John Wayne, Maureen O'Hara, guest star Yvonne DiCarlo, ablaze in color and Panavision. McClintock.
Cousin, mosey in and meet McClintock. McClintock is magnificent.
All right, it's a wild, wonderful family fun show, as you could tell by listening. Now held over for a second week at the Majestic Theater in Dallas, and is now showing also at the Worth Theater in Fort Worth. Right now, we have 63 degrees going up. We'll have more weather information for you post-haste here on the Rex Jones program. Right now, I'd like to remind you it costs only 50 cents a day to buy a child a vacation from Privation. Adopt a destitute child financially through Foster Parents Plan, Box 944, New York 8, New York.
Oh, the wind and the snow. I don't know if we can... Oh, what's that? A St. Bernard dog. We're safe. Oh, here, Joe. Here, fella. Oh, we'll open the little barrel around his neck and... Hey, there's nothing in here but teeny-weeny candy bars. Those are Mars Junior bars. Oh, boy. Yeah, but I was expecting... Be grateful for small candy bars. I know, but who ever heard of Junior Milky Ways and Snickers in a little barrel? Yeah. They usually come in polyethylene bags.
This is KLIF and FM in Dallas.
At 30 past the hour, KLIF News keeps you in total contact.
A greater Dallas service of Patio Diet Cola. Sugar-free cola with true cola taste. President Kennedy arrives in Big D 3 minutes late. 2,000 greet him at Love Field. Mr. Kennedy says U.S. has led world for 18 years since World War II, and Texas has played big part. Winter snowstorms and snow, freezing rain and high winds roaring into the Great Plains area. Cliff temperature 63 degrees.
Good news for Weight Watchers. Pepsi-Cola Company announces Patio Diet Cola, a sugar-free cola with rewarding true cola taste. Only 1 calorie per serving. Yet it has that real cola flavor because it's made with real cola ingredients. Listen to figure expert Debbie Drake.
Patio Diet Cola is the refreshing way to stay slim and still satisfy that deep craving for between meal refreshment. It's sugar-free, only 1 calorie to a serving, but it tastes so good you'll hardly believe it's non-fattening. I give Patio Diet Cola my highest recommendation. Drink you Patio Diet Cola, refreshing way to stay slim. It's sugar-free, low calorie, get true cola taste while you trim. Try it, Patio, buy it, Patio Diet Cola today.
When you just give love and never get love, you better let love depart. I know it's so, and yet I know I can't get you out of my heart. You made me leave my happy home. You took my love and now you're gone. Since I fell for you, brings such misery and pain. I guess I'll never be the same since I fell for you. Well, it's too bad, and it's too sad, but I'm in love with you. You love me, then you snub me. But what can I do? I'm still in love with you.
pretty thing? Ooh, boy, Since I Fell For You is the name of it. The Rex Jones Show in progress here at KLIF in Dallas. This one done for you by Lenny Welchford, of course. Instant survey sound number 2. Looking at 63 degrees right now from Big Cliff.
Hello, friends. My name is Buddy Zach, the motion picture publicist. Now, maybe you've never heard of me, or maybe you don't know what a motion picture publicist does. Well, it's my job to let the public know all about the hilarious, funny new movie, The Wheeler Dealers, starring James Garner and Lee Remick. Oh, it's a good movie, believe me. I mean, it's all about this rich Texas millionaire who falls in love with a beautiful girl on the stock market. Oh, you've got to go and see The Wheeler Dealers. You've just got to, because if you don't go and see it, my boss, Mr. Mogul, the important movie producer, will fire me, and I'll lose my job. I've even bought this radio time, and I promised my family I'd say hello because they're listening. Hello, Eunice. How's little Jody? Oh, please see The Wheeler Dealers, starring James Garner and Lee Remick and Louis Nye, Pat Harrington Jr., Jim Backus and Phil Harris. Please.
If you would like to help save Buddy Zach, see The Wheeler Dealers.
Bless you, sir.
That's all right, buddy. We all feel the same. Anybody that has the courage to marry somebody named Eunice can't be all bad. See The Wheeler Dealer, won't you? Now showing at 2 Trans-Texas theaters, the Capri, downtown Dallas, and the Hollywood, downtown Fort Worth. Don't forget, President Kennedy's speech today has been billed as a major address. KLIF News, of course, will be bringing you excerpts of that speech throughout the afternoon, okay? Mighty fine. Away we go on the Rex Jones Show.
The first of the 2 most glorious holidays of the year is coming, so it won't be long before you make a most important meat purchase. Yes, Thanksgiving is only days away, and this happy holiday will be just a little better this year if a little forethought goes into the purchase of the traditional turkey. Naturally, you want a turkey that gives you extra meat per pound. And if you're like most families, you'll want a turkey that offers more of the moist, sweet, absolutely delicious white meat per pound. There are turkeys that meet these requirements. You'll find them at your grocer's bearing the famous Armour Star. Yes, ma'am, I'm talking about Armour Star broad-breasted turkeys, government inspected and graded to assure your family a very special treat this Thanksgiving. Armour Star turkeys have moderately long, deep, well-rounded breasts with extra white meat, plenty of dark meat, too. When you shop at your grocer's for that Thanksgiving turkey, get an Armour Star broad-breasted turkey, government inspected and graded to assure you of the very best. Armour Star, best by far.
Knows what he's talking about, too. 22 and a half minutes now away from 1 o'clock. All right, let's take a little time out here. Everybody to the icebox, let's get a beer.
The teams are on the field and game time's here. Let's kick off the fun with a Falls Staff beer.
Great teammate for all your good times. Premium quality Falls Staff. Coast to coast for the most refreshing taste in beer, this is the one. Bright, crisp Falls Staff. For extra convenience, buy Falls Staff in no deposit, no return glass cans in handy packs of 6. Falls Staff.
This is the one.
Bulletin. From Dallas, 3 shots reportedly were fired at the motorcade of President Kennedy today near the downtown section. KLIF News is checking out the report. We will have further reports. Stay tuned.
Friend is the name of that one, that by the Chiffons. And I think that is a real winner. As a matter of fact, you must think so, too. Already voted number 36 on the Instant Top 40 at KLIF.
We're doing our Christmas shopping at Robert Hall this year.
We're saving on clothes for Christmas at Robert Hall this year.
More quality for low prices on gifts for one and all.
There's a wider selection,
Bigger collection.
where America goes for family clothes. It's Robert Hall this year.
For the lady who wants more fashion at less cost, Robert Hall has a delightful array of holiday dresses, priced as low as $7.97. Other Christmas features are the elegant three-piece wool suits, priced from only $12.97. Quilted robes and pajama sets are priced from only $3.97 at Robert Hall. Gift center for the family.
You bet your sweet life. Hey, fellas, get the Aristocrata suit, the Juilliard worsted suit, nationally advertised in Look and Life magazine. Robert Hall now features the Juilliard suit at just $46.95. Don't forget, alterations definitely are included. Couple of Scooby-Doo's to you there, fella. We have 63 degrees in Big D at the moment, going up, too.
The best meat from the farmer goes to Armour, and from Armour to the butcher to you. If you want the best from the farmer, ask for Armour and do what the butchers do. Be sure it's Armour, the meat the butcher brings home.
Say, if you pick lunches for the family every day, there's a mighty happy solution to the variety problem. Armour Star Lunch Meat. Why, there are so many varieties, you could go for a couple of weeks without ever repeating. Nourishing? 4 slices of Armour Star Lunch Meat and a couple of sandwiches pack all the wallop of a bowl of beef stew.
Get Armour Star lunch meat for the kids and his nibs. The sandwich meat that stick to your ribs. Lots of different kinds. Easy to make. So for goodness sake,
Be sure it's Armour, the meat the butcher brings home.
17 and a half ticks away from the hour of 1 o'clock right now on the Rex Jones Go. This is Tommy Rowe. He includes just about everybody.
Here is a further report after we have just received word that shots have been fired at the Kennedy motorcade. We just talked with the police department. Here was that conversation.
Several persons arrived at Parkland and no information is being given at this time.
But you did have reports of shots being fired.
We had reports, yes, sir.
KLIF News en route to Parkland Hospital to confirm the reports that someone had been wounded in the firing of shots in the Kennedy motorcade in downtown Dallas. Stay tuned to Cliff News.
But of course, and that one called Everybody, and that's instant survey sound number 1 for about the 4th day in a row.
Refreshing as the land of sky blue waters. That's the big fresh taste that Ham has captured.
To all Texas, the people at Ham say thank you.
Yes, thanks for making Ham's beer such a favorite. It's got the famous taste that thousands of Texans are enjoying every day. In fact, somewhere in Texas, someone is opening and enjoying a Ham's beer every 3 seconds. This weekend is a perfect time to refresh yourself with a tall, cold Ham's beer. Thanks again for the spectacular welcome. They would suggest you stock up for the weekend with Texas-brewed premium Ham's beer at popular Texas prices.
Refreshing as the land of sky to water. That's the big fresh taste of Ham.
Hey, be sure that you stock up for this weekend with Texas-brewed premium Ham's beer at popular Texas prices.
And now we take you to Joe Long in KLIF Mobile News Unit number 4 in downtown Dallas.
The latest information, and things are rather confused at this moment, shots definitely were fired at the presidential motorcade as it passed through downtown Dallas. All squads are converging code 3 in the area of Elm and Houston in downtown. There is a tentative description of the shooting suspect, a man, a white male, believed to be approximately 30 years old, reportedly armed with a .30 caliber rifle. How many shots were fired? How many persons, if any, were struck and wounded? We do not know yet. Very close-mouthed officials now clamping down on the entire story. We'll bring you what details are available just as quickly as they come into our possession. Joe Long, Fifth Mobile News Unit number 4, 1190 and out.
Sandra Z has her troubles. Listen.
A lot's been said about the wild teenage set. But wait till you see the scrapes my dad, Jimmy Stewart, gets into in Take Her, She's Mine. Yikes, you just wouldn't believe it. Can you picture Jimmy Stewart battling the police?
Grab him, boy.
No!
Oh, no!
Mixed up with some French cuties.
Holy chihuahua.
Doing a Parisian striptease. Yikes, you just gotta see our new picture, Take Her, She's Mine, to believe it.
The wonderful Broadway smash is even funnier on the movie screen. Take Her, She's Mine. The hilarious story of a father whose baby suddenly becomes a babe. So take her, take him, take the family to see James Stewart and Sandra Z in Take Her, She's Mine, co-starring Audrey Meadows from 20th Century Fox in color by Deluxe. Take Her, She's Mine.
I'll do it, friend, if you don't watch me very closely. It's the surprise fun show of the season, now held over for a third big week at Interstate's Palace Theater in Dallas.
That once upon a time I didn't need you so. It would have been so easy then for me to turn and go. But now there's no leaving you. I know that for a fact. I'm at the point of no return, and for me there'll be no turning back. I told myself you'd always be a habit I could break. But now a day without your kiss would be so hard to take. You just can't get off a train that's moving down the track. I'm at the point of no return, and for me there'll be no turning back. Could have said goodbye, but that was at the start. Now I think I'd rather die than be the one to say we'll part. Maybe you will break my heart, or maybe you'll be true. No matter what the future brings, I've got to see it through. Maybe your love for me is nothing but an act. I'm at the point of no return, and for me there'll be no turning back. Yeah, for me there'll be no turning back.
Gene McDaniels with a KLIF Classic, and ladies and gentlemen, stand by at 1190 on your dial for further developments in the reported shooting during the motorcade of President Kennedy on his visit to Dallas, Texas.
Are you hoping that someday you'll find something that's really good for pimples and bad complexion? Search no more.
Baker's Beauty Lotion is what you need. A brand new modern formula, safe, easy, and pleasant to use. Mrs. H.W. Hedgepeth, 1044 Garden View Drive, Dallas, says,
my grandson had pimples all over his face, and Baker's Beauty Lotion sure has done wonders for him. I heartily recommend it for pimples and skin blemishes. Baker's Beauty Lotion is in a class with the old reliable Baker's Hair Tonic for dandruff.
For pimples and bad complexion, Baker's Beauty Lotion is the best yet. It's a new formula containing no harmful ingredients, easy, safe to use. Those who use Baker's Beauty Lotion face the world with a clear face or money back.
And now another report from Joe Long in downtown Dallas.
Latest details on the chase and search in downtown Dallas. An unidentified man fired several shots from what apparently was a high-powered .30 caliber rifle at the presidential motorcade. So far, the authorities are not releasing details on who, if anyone, was hit by any of the bullets or how badly they were injured. Parkland Hospital being very closed-mouthed about the situation, but the search now centers at the area of Elm and Houston near the old Texas School Book Depository building, and there is a possibility that the would-be assassin is still inside that building. All available downtown units are converging at emergency speed to that area. The entire area has been blocked off. It is roped off now. No one allowed in or out as the search for this would-be presidential assassin continues in downtown Dallas. What had been a very smooth journey to Texas for the president and his wife and other officials, Vice President and Mrs. Lyndon Johnson, now has turned into another black smear. And we are keeping up to date on all details through the official police officer sources, and will bring you full details as soon as they're available. Joe Long, Cliff Mobile News Unit number 41190 and out.
I do 90% of your work. I'm Babble Cleanser. Grease-dissolving, stain-removing, powerful new Babble. Now, do you believe me? KLIF 1190. Bring it.
Isn't it time for Aunt Jemima Day at your house?
Jerry DeLon in the KLIF newsroom. The police department is still trying to confirm the fact that President Kennedy and Governor John Connelly have been wounded, perhaps tragically, in a afternoon altercation in downtown area. According to the latest reports, both had been cut down by at least 3 bullets that pierced the atmosphere as the motorcade made its way from Love Field through to that downtown area to the Trademark where President Kennedy was to speak at a luncheon. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired. The bubble had been discarded when the sun broke through the clouds here in Big D. The president, his body cradled in the arms of Mrs. Kennedy, has been rushed to Parkland Hospital. We are still awaiting word from Parkland the extent of the president's injury. We just talked with the police department just a moment ago. Here was that conversation.
Did you get any more confirmation that the president had been wounded? No, sir. Can you give me the description again, please, ma'am?
We're awfully busy right now. Did you get it on your radio? Or it's 5mm 35 10 165 30 caliber rifle, and I believe it was at Elm and Houston where it came from. Now I don't know definitely, and I don't like to say.
Thank you.
That was the police department, Mrs. Trempton, saying that they have not received the confirmed reports. And now we'll switch you to the downtown area of Dallas, and this is Joe Long.
Here is the latest unconfirmed report we have, and we must stress that this is unconfirmed, but it comes from a very high-placed official who refuses to be quoted. But it is now reported that Governor Connelly and the President perhaps have been wounded in this assassin's attempt. It is an unofficial report that both the President and Governor Connelly were wounded in this shooting event in the downtown area during the passage of the motorcade. The automobile in which the President was riding reportedly sped out to Parkland Hospital, and we do not know whether Mrs. Kennedy and or Mrs. Connelly suffered any injury at all. The first report we had said that both of the men were lying prone in the automobile in the caravan limousine at the time it made its way rapidly to Parkland Hospital. We have no further details. Parkland Hospital is being placed almost off limits to reporters at this time, but those details that are available will be brought to you just as quickly as we possibly can. Very briefly recapping, there has been an assassination attempt in downtown Dallas. Shots fired from a high-powered rifle at the presidential car in the motorcade as it was en route to the trademark for a scheduled presidential speech. All of these security precautions that have been taken, and now this happens. And the police are converging on and surrounding the area of Elm and Houston, the old technical school book exchange building, where they believe they may have trapped the would-be assassin. We'll bring you further details momentarily. Joe Long, Clip Mobile News Unit number 4, 1190, and out.
Gary DeLon back at the Klif-Radio studios, issuing the bulletin again for the man armed with a .30 caliber rifle. He was described as about 5'10", 165 pounds, of slender build, about 30 to 35 years old. This tragic incident occurred at Elm and Houston as the motorcade was en route to the trademark for a noon luncheon. The president, of course, was to deliver the speech during his appearance in Big D. Newsmen, some 5 car lengths behind the president, heard what sounded like 3 bursts of gunfire. Secret Service agents in the auto following the president quickly pulled automatic rifles. The bubble, as we've mentioned previously, on the president's car was down when the shots rang out. The president slumped over the back seat, face down. Governor Connelly lay on the floor of the rear seat. Wounds in the governor's chest were clearly visible. The wounds indicated an automatic weapon had been used. Police say this is believed to be a .30 caliber pistol, rifle. 3 loud bursts of gunfire, possible tragedy on this November 22nd in Big D. We're going to switch now to the trademark, and here is a statement from Gordon McClendon.
Gordon McClendon at the trademark in Dallas. Here, the scene is of wild pandemonium as 2,000 guests waited anxiously for President Kennedy, Governor Connelly, and the Vice President. Now, rumors run rampant. No one here knows what has happened, but the rumors continue to circulate that the President and Governor Connelly both have been shot. And here at the trademark, we have nothing but rumors and a wild scene of chaos. This is Gordon McClendon from the trademark in Dallas.
That was Gordon McClendon from the trademark in Dallas. Again, we are still trying to get confirmed reports from Parkland Hospital that President Kennedy and Governor Connelly have been cut down by an assassin's bullet, a fusillade of bullets, at the intersection of Elm and Houston in downtown Dallas. It is impossible, and it was impossible at that time to tell where the president was hit, but bullet wounds in Connelly's chest clearly indicated that he had been wounded in that region. There were 3 loud bursts visibly heard by members of the motorcade. Cycle officers escorting the president quickly leaped from their bikes and raced up a grassy hill. That description again, a man about 5'10", 165 pounds, about 30 years of age. He was armed with a .30 caliber rifle. He was of slender build. The police department has thrown out an extensive drag net. We are still trying to get in touch with Parkland Hospital. We hope to have confirmation. The latest report that we have from one press source, Clint Hill, a Secret Service agent assigned to Mrs. Kennedy, said he's dead as the president was lifted from the rear of the White House touring car. Mr. Kennedy was rushed to the Parkland Hospital emergency room. Other White House officials were in doubt as the corridors of the hospital erupted in pandemonium. The incident occurred at Elm and Houston in the downtown area as the motorcade wended its way through the region. Newsmen in the motorcade did hear the 3 bursts from the automatic rifle. It is impossible, and was so at the time, to tell where the chief executive was struck by the bullets. We are now in contact with one of our news units, and we are going to switch you now for another report from the downtown section of Dallas.
So long again in Clip Mobile News Unit number 4, and the police cordon and the widespread search net continues We still do not know whether this would-be assassin is trapped in the building or in the area at all. The search continues. We're going to vacate this mobile unit momentarily, and we'll be back in touch with you just as quickly as possible. KLIF newsmen and mobile units spread throughout all the strategic spots covering this story. We'll bring you full details momentarily. Joe Long, Cliff Mobile News Unit number 41190 and out.
The possible tragedy came after President Kennedy arrived 3 minutes late at Love Field as his big jet plane with number 1 on its side floated down to Earth and the sun broke through the clouds after the president was 10 minutes away leaving Fort Worth. He was 10 minutes late. He was 3 minutes late arriving at Dallas Love Field. An estimated 250,000 persons lined the streets this afternoon as the president's motorcade moved through the streets. Then, at 12:50 p.m. Central Time, acting White House News Secretary Malcolm Kilduff was asked whether the president was dead. He said, "I have no word now," and that is the word we are awaiting. I have no word now, the latest. Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth has just said that both President Kennedy and Governor Connelly were seriously wounded in the attack, but were alive. This is the latest. Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth has said that both President Kennedy and Governor Connelly were seriously wounded, but were still alive. And now, here is KLIF's Joe Long.
Still no official word from Parkland Hospital. We were en route from Love Field, where we had described the arrival of the presidential party. And that is when the first word of the shooting came out. We have been in the deep downtown area, in the area of Elm and Houston, and the dragnet continues. So far, Parkland Hospital has not released an official statement on the condition of President Kennedy and Governor John Connelly. We do know now, however, that both of these men were wounded in the assassination attempt, and the dragnet and search continues. We are finding these details slow in coming. We have many official and unofficial comments coming from various sources. But at this moment, let's summarize it this way. As the presidential motorcade made its way through downtown Dallas, at least 3 shots rang out in the vicinity of Elm and Houston. And one child reportedly was a witness to the shooting. A young colored boy said that as he heard the first shot, he looked up at the 4th floor window of the old Texas School Book Exchange building and saw a man leaning from the window, and then he fired at least 2 more shots. The report we had from witnesses at the scene said that both the president and Governor Connelly were lying prone in the presidential limousine as it sped to Parkland Hospital. From Parkland, Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth says both Kennedy and Connelly were seriously wounded but are still alive. However, we must stress that this is an unofficial report. It is not a medical report. Here is a description now of the man who fired the shots.
We're awfully busy right now. Did you get it on your radio? Or it's 5mm 35 10 165 30 caliber rifle, and I believe it was at Elm and Houston where it came from. Now I don't know definitely, and I don't like to say.
That was an official police department dispatcher description of the man we believe fired the would-be deadly shots at the presidential motorcade. There were about 250,000 persons lining the downtown streets at the time this incident took place. As the motorcade made its way toward the triple underpass, the crowd would break up and flood into the streets. But still, it was an orderly crowd held back from the streets at the time the shooting occurred. Obviously, this had to be a high-powered rifle for there to have been such a degree of accuracy on the part of the assassin, firing bullets into both the president and Governor Connelly. It was approximately 12:50 our time when acting White House News Secretary Malcolm Kilduff was asked whether the president was dead. He said, "I have no word at this time." Now, that is acting White House News Secretary Kilduff, who made the trip instead of the usual White House News Corps. Vice President Johnson was in the car behind the president, and there was no indication at all that he was injured. Also, we do not have any indication whether the First Lady, Mrs. Jackie Kennedy, or Mrs. John Connelly suffered any injuries. The report we had now, here it is, officially that Mrs. Kennedy apparently is safe. Mrs. Connelly also safe, it appears, at least to those witnesses at Parkland Hospital. And to state it mildly, both women extremely stunned. Mrs. Kennedy reportedly had cradled her husband's head in her lap during the speedy trip to Parkland Hospital. Kennedy, according to a member of his staff, was still alive 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes ago, we had word that the president was still alive. The blood was spattered all over the inside of the limousine, which had been flown in specially to carry the president. Ordinarily, there is a huge plastic bubble which allows the public a view of the president and those in the car with him, but gives those inside the limousine protection from the weather and would-be assassins. But because of the rapid, beautiful turn in today's weather, the bubble had been removed, and the president and all those in the limousine were fully exposed not only to the public and the elements, but also to these would-be killer bullets. Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth, as we told you earlier, he, in addition to Kilduff, would be perhaps the most official source we've been able to contact so far, told us that both Kennedy and Connelly were seriously wounded, but as of 12:55, 11 minutes ago, both were alive. A call has been sent out for some of the top surgical specialists in the city. A call also has been placed for a priest to report to Parkland Hospital. Now let's summarize this so that we can bring you up to date and give you full details, all of the facts that we have available at our disposal at this moment. President Kennedy arrived in Dallas at approximately 11:35. He received a rousing welcome from some 2,000 spectators at Dallas Love Field. Then the motorcade began its trip through downtown Dallas to the Trade Mart, where he was scheduled to address some 2,500 spectators and supporters. But just short of the moment he would have left the downtown area, as the motorcade began its trip toward the triple underpass at Elm and Houston, 3 bullets rang out, apparently fired from a .30 caliber rifle. The assassin supposedly was in a building about 3 or 4 stories up when he unleashed the deadly hail of bullets. We say deadly, that word was ill-advised. We will correct that. We do know, however, that the president and Governor Connelly, both riding in the presidential limousine, were wounded. As they departed Love Field, the president and Mrs. Kennedy sat on the main back seat, and Governor Connelly and his wife were on the jump seats, and then the Secret Service man and the chauffeur were in the front seat. But as witnesses stated, both men were prone in the vehicle. They did not bother with ambulances. The limousine with police escort made its way immediately to Parkland Hospital, where top surgical specialists have been summoned. A call also has gone out for a priest. At this moment, the word is that both men were still alive as of 12:55. The picture in downtown Dallas is one of extreme activity on the part of the police. There was that sudden call, all units report code 3 in the downtown area to Elm and Houston, and they are trying to surround this building and close it off in case this man still would be there. He is approximately 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighs about 160 pounds, and is a white man. He was carrying a .30 caliber rifle. We're going to call in Roy Nichols in one of the Cliff mobile units downtown to see what late details he has on the search for the would-be killer.
We have just left the corner of Elm and Harwood where the shooting took place. There is no information to be gained at that point right now, other than what Joe has just told you. Police are still looking for the would-be assassin. We will be at Parkland Hospital in just a moment to see if we can gain any information from Parkland at all. Of course, Parkland is not putting out any information at the moment as to whether the President and Governor Connelly have been critically wounded or not. But we will be there in just a moment, and we'll bring you the official word from Parkland Hospital as soon as it is released. At Elm and Harwood, of course, police have converged on the area, still searching for the would-be assassin. We'll be at Parkland in just a moment, and we hope to have an official report for you. Roy Nichols, KLIF Mobile News Unit, number 41190 announced.
We now have received word from Parkland Hospital that the president is still alive. No official report yet on Governor Connelly's condition. However, both men were alive at 12:50. We do now have information that that President Kennedy is alive. Word from Hyannisport, Massachusetts, just handed us President Kennedy's mother and father have been advised that he has been shot here in Dallas. They are presently at Hyannisport. And from New York City, only minutes after the president was shot, stocks moved actively lower, but a few issues stayed on the upside. The search continues through downtown Dallas for the man who today loaded a gun and intended to snuff out the life of the President of the United States and the Governor of the state of Texas, John Connelly. How closely he has come to accomplishing his devious aim, we do not know. We do have word that the President is still alive, but the true extent of his injuries and what his present condition might be, we have not yet received official word on that. Top surgical specialists have been summoned to Parkland. A priest also has been summoned there. The President and Governor Connelly, riding in the same car, were rushed directly to Parkland Hospital as the motorcade broke up once the shooting incident took place. The First Lady and Mrs. Connelly, neither of them suffered any injury from the gunfire. That's the latest word we have on their condition, but both women, of course, in a high degree of agitation and a state of shock over the wounding of their husbands. It was reported to us by one bystander that as the presidential vehicle sped toward Parkland Hospital, the First Lady cradled the President's head in her lap. Governor Connelly and the President both were prone in the automobile. Having been past the intersection of Elm and Houston quite a number of times, if you will recall the old Texas Textbook Exchange building, it sits only some 20 to 30 feet from the edge of the street where the presidential motorcade would have been passing. And from a third-story window, accuracy could be pretty well counted upon if a person knew how to use a weapon at all. Also, it would have been a very devastating shot should it come in contact with the person for whom it was intended. So we still are awaiting more official word on how critically the President has been injured. Everything seemed to be going well for Dallas today. The weather fared off. Everything cleared up. The crowd was orderly at Love Field when the President arrived. It looked like Dallas was going to have a smoothly operating presidential motorcade and visit and speech and then departure this afternoon. And then suddenly, a black cloud descended on Dallas as the President and Governor Connelly were wounded. We have only two official sources with whom we have been able to be in contact, two within the presidential party itself. Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth is one of those. He says that both the President and the Governor have been seriously wounded, but they are still alive. However, Clint Hill, a Secret Service agent assigned to protect Mrs. Kennedy, had a much more critical description of the President's condition. But as we say, these are individual opinions, and we have yet to receive direct official word from the surgeons at the hospital. It is now reported to us by Parkland that President Kennedy is receiving blood transfusions. The President now receiving blood transfusions as a result of these assassin bullets that tore into his body today. 3 shots reportedly were fired at the motorcade. And now we have word that a 25-year-old man has been caught at Field and Elm Street. He obviously a suspect in this assassination attempt. He has been captured at Field and Elm and is being taken directly to police headquarters. We will be in touch with our reporter at police headquarters to let you know precisely how accurately this man might be fitting the description of the man for whom they've been searching ever since the shots were fired that struck the President and the Governor. Although Dallas has been regarded as a center of strong political opposition to Kennedy, the heavy street crowds between Love Field and the scene of the shooting were overwhelmingly friendly. They were friendly at Love Field. There were a few derogatory signs, but there were no physical incidents of any note at all. There were numerous welcome Kennedy signs, a few anti-Kennedy signs, but all in all, the crowd was very orderly. All but one person, and that person is the subject on the lips of the world at this moment, as he has pumped bullets into the body of President Kennedy and Governor John Connelly, both of whom have been rushed to Parkland Hospital. Our reporters are in direct touch with the police department, Parkland Hospital, the search through the downtown area as we attempt to determine who did this, has he been caught, and in what condition are we finding the President and Governor John Connelly. The latest word from Parkland Hospital, the President is receiving blood transfusions. He has been wounded, but he is alive. And the downtown area is not the place to be at this moment unless you are on official business, because the police department, the Secret Service, the Highway Patrol, and the Sheriff's Office making one of the biggest manhunts in all Texas, in fact, in the history of the nation, as they attempt to find the man who fired these shots at the president. One man perched on the roof of his car had held out toward the president a sign saying that because of Kennedy's socialistic beliefs, quote, I hold you in complete contempt. That was one of the few derogatory signs that we had found in the downtown area. And now, back to Gary DeLong.
The police have reportedly arrested a man about 25 years of age, fitting the description broadcast earlier by the Dallas Police Department, 5'10", 165 pounds. This last report stated that the president is undergoing emergency transfusions at this time at Parkland Hospital. The last word that we had shortly before 1 o'clock, about 2 minutes before 1, that both the president and Governor John Connelly were fighting for their lives. The man, believed armed with a .30 caliber rifle, perched from a building at Elman, Houston, as the motorcade made its way to the Travel Mart. Now it is a very dejected, depressing, desolate room where the luncheon was to have taken place. A city in great apprehension this afternoon. The New York Stock Exchange closed operations after word of the assassination attempt against the president and Governor Connelly. The cotton and the wool exchanges also closed. We are still awaiting word from Parkland Hospital as to the immediate condition of the president. As of 16 minutes ago, he was still battling for his life, undergoing blood transfusions. There have been many incidents in Big D in recent weeks that have tarnished the reputation of Dallas, and this morning it appeared that the city in Texas we call the Gateway to the South was going to have a chance to redeem itself. The sun broke through the clouds, and about 2,000 persons gathered at the airport to greet the president. Departing from political procedure somewhat, the president left the limousine and walked behind the car. Mrs. Kennedy did likewise. They shook hands with well-wishers alongside the Love Field fence. Then the president, Mrs. Kennedy, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, and Governor and Mrs. Connelly re-entered their cars and made their way to the downtown area. At 20 minutes before 1, approximately, is the dastardly deed done here in Dallas. That was the approximate time we received the news. One man was perched on the roof of his automobile. He'd held out toward the president a sign saying that because of Kennedy's socialistic beliefs, I hold you in complete contempt. And now we're going to turn you back over to Joe Long.
Let's summarize again precisely what has occurred here today. President Kennedy and his official traveling party took off from Fort Worth Carswell Air Force Base this morning shortly after 11 o'clock. They arrived in Dallas shortly past 11:30. Everything went smoothly. The rain cleared away. The sun came out. There was a good crowd on hand, well behaved. The president departed from protocol. He left the official limousine, walked along the fenced area, shaking hands with the spectators. Then the motorcade departed, and the trip through downtown Dallas had just about concluded when the 3 shots rang out from an assassin's rifle, striking the president and Governor John Connelly. Both men rushed to Dallas Parkland Hospital by emergency speed. Official surgical reports are not available at this moment. A special carton of blood, apparently for transfusion purposes, has been rushed into the emergency ward. 2 Dallas police officers carried that carton. The president's body was limp as he was carried into the hospital emergency room, cradled in the arms of his wife. He was rushed to Parkland Hospital. The governor also was taken there. The surgical specialists have been called in. A Roman Catholic priest also has been sent for. Shortly after the shooting, Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth said both the president and Connelly were alive but seriously wounded. And now here's a late report from Dallas police. 1 Secret Service agent reportedly was killed in the assassin's attempt. The Secret Service men have been in Dallas throughout the week, paving the way for this trip, hoping that it would go smoothly. But no, this has not been the case today. In fact, it has gone tragically at this moment. We now have reports that a 25-year-old man has been arrested in the downtown area, a hot suspect in this case. The assassin apparently fired his shots from a .30 caliber rifle from the third-floor window of a school book exchange building just before the presidential motorcade was to go under a triple underpass, then out onto the main Stemmons Expressway and onto the trademark where the president was to have lunch and give his address. Blood was spattered all over the White House car. Mr. Kennedy was slumped over the back seat. Governor Connelly lay on the floor at the rear of the seat. Mrs. Kennedy apparently was not hurt. Mrs. Connelly also was safe. The witnesses in the downtown area said there were 3 loud bursts of gunfire, and the motorcycle police who were escorting the president quickly jumped from their bikes and raced up a grassy hill to take up position for possible action against the assassin. At the height of the emergency room drama, a weeping Negro woman bearing a small, bloody child rushed into the hospital, where a nurse and intern quickly went to her side. The business of Parkland Hospital emergency room is continuous 24 hours a day, but never has it been so busy with such a distinguished pair of patients as they have received there today. Governor John Connelly and President Kennedy, both wounded in an assassination attempt in downtown Dallas. One man has been arrested as a prime suspect. He fits fairly closely the description of the man who supposedly fired these bullets. He was arrested in the vicinity of Elm in Houston, where the dragnet has been out for some 45 minutes now and is being rushed to police headquarters for further questioning. There was absolutely no warning that this would take place. Of course, these things always come so spontaneously. Should there be any warning, then the president would be better protected and an alternate route could be prepared. But everything had gone smoothly to this very moment, and then the 3 shots rang out, and then the vehicle bearing the president and the governor rushed to Parkland Hospital, both men prone in the back seat area of the vehicle. The president's head was cradled in the First Lady's lap. We repeat that Mrs. Kennedy and Mrs. Connelly both apparently escaped any injury from this assassination attempt. But it is now official, both President Kennedy and Governor Connelly have been shot and wounded. At Parkland Hospital, the top surgical specialists have arrived. A Roman Catholic priest has arrived. And a few moments ago, a special shipment of blood was brought in by 2 Dallas police officers. Bill Stinson, an assistant to Governor Connelly, let him talk to the operating room. This is late word from Parkland. He said the governor had been shot just below the shoulder blade in the back. Stinson said he asked Connelly how it happened, and he said, "I don't know. I guess from the back, but they got the president, too." Congressman Jim Wright of Fort Worth says that both men were still alive as of 12:55 Dallas time, approximately 30 minutes ago. But all indications, according to the extensiveness of the treatment at Parkland Hospital, every indication we have is that the wounds possibly are of serious nature. The latest report from United Press International leads off this way. President Kennedy has been shot. He is perhaps fatally wounded. But we must keep repeating that there is no official word that the president is in critical condition at this time. However, he was slumped over in the back seat from the impact of the high-caliber bullets that were poured into the presidential limousine. The last shooting incident involving a president occurred in 1950 when President Harry Truman was in office and living in Blair House in Washington. That was when the White House was being renovated. 2 Puerto Rican nationalists tried to gun their way into Blair House and assassinate Truman, who was taking a nap at the time on the 2nd floor. 1 White House officer was killed in that assassination attempt and another seriously wounded, and one of the assassins was cut down in the blaze of defensive gunfire on Pennsylvania Avenue. The Senate has adjourned in Washington upon learning of the assassination attempt. The American Stock Exchange closed its operations today after word of the attempt, and the New York Stock Exchange took an expected dip. So we will recap for you very briefly now. Late word from Parkland Hospital. A Father Huber of Holy Trinity Church in Dallas has administered the last sacraments of the church to the president. This does not mean that the president has died. It is a religious precaution taken for those persons who are seriously ill or who have been seriously injured. But a Father Huber of the Holy Trinity Church in Dallas has at Parkland Hospital administered the last sacraments of the Roman Catholic Church to the president. There have been many reports coming from Parkland Hospital, some of which we have been able to confirm, others we have not. But we must stress this: KLIF is only accepting news from official sources, those with whom we are in contact daily, those persons we know and can be absolutely certain of the reliability of their statements. So what you hear us broadcast Please bear in mind, it is all of official nature or of eyewitness detail. Sheriff's officers took a young man into custody at the scene. They are questioning him behind closed doors. But this last word from Parkland is that a Roman Catholic priest has administered the last sacraments of the church to the president. That sacrament was administered shortly before 1 o'clock. However, we have received no further word on the severity of the president's condition. There are reports circulating by other news media in Dallas that the president has been killed. But we have yet to receive our official source word on this from Parkland Hospital or any of the other officials involved in this operation. A prime suspect in the assassination attempt is in custody. He is being questioned. And now we will see if Roy Nichols has made his way back into the mobile unit. He has been at Parkland Hospital and at the search scene. Perhaps we can contact Roy Nichols now. Roy obviously is out of the unit at Parkland Hospital, checking with emergency sources there at this time. But at last report, the President and Governor Connelly both had received transfusions. A Roman Catholic priest administered the last sacrament of the church to the President. We do not know how seriously he was injured, but Governor Connelly was conscious in the hospital emergency room. One of his aides, Bill Stinson, he's an assistant to the governor, says that he talked to the governor in the hospital operating room and said the governor was shot just below the shoulder blade in the back. Stinson said he asked Connelly how it happened, and he said, "I don't know, I guess from the back, but they got the president too." So that's the situation to this moment as we await further official word on the condition of President Kennedy, who has been rushed to Parkland Hospital after being shot. Bullets crashing from a high-powered rifle in the downtown Dallas area, almost at the conclusion of a near-perfect reception and motorcade from Dallas Love Field. It was headed for the Trade Mart, where some 2,500 supporters and well-wishers stood by, waiting to greet the president and to hear the address that he was to give there this afternoon. But that is the situation to this moment. One suspect is in custody. The last rites of the church have been administered to the president. Another priest, who declined to give his name, said the chief executive still was alive at the time the sacrament was administered, shortly before 1 o'clock Dallas time. Sheriff's officers have a young man, the prime suspect, in custody at the scene and are questioning him behind closed doors at this moment. The dragnet was over all of the downtown Dallas area, but most particularly it was concentrated in the vicinity of Elm and Houston Street, where the bullets were fired. The presidential car immediately sped the president and Governor Connelly to Parkland Hospital. Emergency blood supplies have been brought in, top surgeons have been called in, and two Catholic priests who were summoned to the scene. One has administered the last sacrament of the church to the president, but at last report, he apparently still is alive, and how critical his injuries may be, we have not yet been able to determine.
There is a strong rumor that the president is dead, Joe. Parkland says it is official, and we won't know for just a moment, but there's strong indication that the president of the United States is dead.
This is the strong indication. We had received several reports to that effect, but as we have outlined before, until the official word is received, KLIF is withholding any stern and final pronouncement on that.
Were that true, Joe, it would be the second time in American history that a Johnson had succeeded to the presidency upon the death of a president, the last time having been, of course, the assassination of President Lincoln, and he was, of course, succeeded by Andrew Johnson.
We have word that Vice President Lyndon Johnson is somewhere in Parkland Hospital. It has been impossible to determine his precise whereabouts at this moment. He was reported, of course, badly shocked by the shooting. Doctors were trying to keep him as quiet as possible. Vice President Johnson occupied the limousine directly behind the president's car. He is now under heavy Secret Service and police protection. Throughout the Texas trip, when Kennedy and Johnson had been in the same motorcade, as an obvious security measure, they have ridden in the separate cars as they did today. The Johnson car has always been some distance behind the presidential car. Senator Ralph Yarborough, in a nearby car, said he saw the president's lips moving at a normal rate of speed while he was being rushed to the hospital. Gordon McClendon has just returned from the Trade Mart. The scene had all been so beautifully set there for the President's arrival, the luncheon, and his speech this afternoon. Gordon, what was the effect on those some 2,000 people waiting there?
Stunned, of course, Joe, and a wild scramble for transportation out of the Trade Mart, particularly by reporters from throughout the United States seeking to get transportation some way, somehow, to Parkland Hospital. By the time we left, which was approximately 10 minutes after the shooting, the giant Trade Mart had been more than half emptied of the 2,000 people who had been assembled there to see the President, the Vice President, and the remainder of the luminaries. Rumors ran rampant. At first, it was thought that Vice President Johnson had also been shot in the attack. I can only say that no one at the Trade Mart knew very much, but now everyone is fully aware.
Malcolm Kilduff, press secretary, he is in charge of press relations on this presidential tour, says he cannot say at this time whether the president is alive and cannot say where he was hit. Says Kilduff, there are just too many stories at this time. Perhaps it was the gap in the motorcade, which we mentioned earlier, that saved Johnson from being a target today. These security precautions that they've been taking to keep the President and Vice President separated. The priest who accompanied Father Hubert did not go into the emergency room himself. He said he understood the President's condition was critical, but was still alive at 12:55. That's the latest official word.
Direct contact, Joe, with Parkland Hospital. We are in direct contact. We have been unable yet to verify the rumors, and to this point, they are strictly rumors that the President is dead. We will not know until the word comes through officially, but there have been strong indications that the President has expired. But again, we repeat, it is unofficial. President Kennedy and Governor John Connelly of Dallas, of Texas, having been cut down by assassin's bullets today at lunch. They were shot as they toured downtown Dallas in an open car. Specialists are arriving at the hospital, which I might mention is a scene of wild pandemonium. As we were coming from the Trade Mart a moment ago in a Dallas police car, there was a call for 20 additional police units at Parkland Hospital. And incidentally, on the 5th floor of the downtown building from which the President and the Governor were shot, they have now discovered empty rifle hulls. And there is also indication that more than one man is involved in the attack, Joe.
We have had descriptions of 3 men, actually, 2 white men and 1 colored man, as being possible suspects in this shooting. But at present, a 25-year-old white man has been taken into custody. He is behind heavy security guard at this time and is undergoing extensive questioning. But it obviously had to be a high-powered rifle in order to have the almost deadly effect that it had from that distance. And it was just, you could say the motorcade was almost home free at the time this took place. It was leaving
almost there.
It was leaving the most congested area of downtown. From there on, the route would have been relatively free of bystanders because it was a major expressway.
Cliff Hill, a Secret Service agent assigned to Mrs. Kennedy, said as the President was lifted from the rear of the White House touring car at Parkland Hospital, he's dead. However, that again comes into the category of an unconfirmed statement. We can only give you unconfirmed statements at this point. There are strong indications that the President has expired, but there has been no bulletin to that effect, and as Joe has told you, the last rites and sacrament have definitely been administered.
Correct. 2 Catholic priests were summoned to the scene. Only one of them visited the President. That was Father Hubert, and the word was that the President still was alive at the time the sacrament was administered shortly before 1 o'clock Dallas time. Several of the surgeons have arrived. Blood plasma, a special carton of blood plasma, was brought into Parkland Emergency not too long ago by 2 special Dallas police officers. Our KLIF reporters in the downtown area where the search has been conducted for the would-be assassin, also at Parkland Hospital and at police headquarters and the sheriff's office, to bring us the very latest and most official word that we are able to gather on this assassination attempt on the President's life today.
It would be the first time, of course, since the assassination of President McKinley that such an event had taken place in the United States, and it would also be the second time in American history that a Johnson had succeeded to the presidency upon the death of the president by assassination. The last time, of course, having been the succession of Andrew Johnson after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Joe?
At the time these 3 shots, and it is a little confused right now as to how many there were, but we do know of 3 because that's the consensus of witnesses who were there. The time those shots rang out, the motorcycle escort immediately jumped from their bikes, dashed up the grassy hill to the parkway just across the street from the old Texas School Book Exchange building and began their perusal of the building. One policeman fell to the ground, pulled his pistol and screamed, "Get down!" And a man across the street standing in the crowd snatched up his little girl and ran. This was the man the police first chased because he had panicked and run at the hearing of the shots.
That building, incidentally, Joe, the correct name of that building, although it is the Texas Book Depository, is the Sexton Building. The Sexton Building.
Correct, and it is at a very strategic point in the parade route. Whoever pulled this devious act knew that he was choosing a key location for his attempt on the president's life.
Well, of course, the major attention is being focused upon the condition of the president. No one yet has any authoritative report upon the nature of the wounds to Governor Connelly. Bullet wounds were plainly visible in Connelly's chest, so we know that he was shot in the chest. His condition, however, remains more of a mystery than that of the President of the United States. The President is clearly, gravely, critically, and perhaps fatally wounded. There are strong indications that he may already have expired, although that is not official. We repeat, not official. But the extent of the injuries to Governor Connelly is a closely shrouded secret at the moment.
President Kennedy is dead, Gordon. This is official word.
The President is dead. The President, ladies and gentlemen, is dead at Parkland Hospital in Dallas.
The shock of an incident like this, particularly to those of us of the press, radio, and television corps who had seen the president alive only a few moments ago, can never be described. At Dallas Love Field, he arrived. He was his usual smiling self. He even deviated from protocol and went to the fence and shook hands with the people. So did Mrs. Kennedy. So did Vice President and Mrs. Johnston. And then the motorcade began its trip and then rang out the deadly bullets from the assassin's gun.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States is dead. The new President of the United States, by succession, is Vice President Lyndon Johnson. It will be the second time in American history that a Johnson has succeeded to the presidency upon the assassination of the president. The last time being, of course, in the post-Civil War days upon the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Andrew Johnson succeeded as president. And you will recall that this is the second assassination of this century, the last having been the assassination of President William McKinley in 1901. President Kennedy and Governor John Connelly of Texas cut down by assassin's bullets. The condition yet of Connelly undetermined. We know he's been shot in the chest. We do not know whether he has been shot once or twice, but bullet wounds were clearly visible in his chest. We repeat, ladies and gentlemen, the flash of a moment ago, and you get these flashes once in every decade. The President of the United States is dead.
Gordon Bill Stinson, an assistant to Governor Connelly, said he talked to the governor in the hospital operating room and said the governor was shot just below the shoulder blade in the back. But we would state here how he and the president occupied the same vehicle. The president and Mrs. Kennedy were riding in the extreme back seat of this huge limousine, and Governor and Mrs. Connelly were in the jump seats, or the smaller seats directly in front of the president and the first lady. Now, this special vehicle was flown down last night from Washington by air.
All programming to bring you the details as they come in. Apparently 3 bursts of gunfire. The president was slumped over the back seat of the car, face down. Governor John Connelly lay on the floor of the rear seat. Impossible to tell just for a moment whether Kennedy was hit again, and then, of course, a gush of blood, and it was apparent the president had been hit, and possibly mortally so. That has now proved to be the case. The President of the United States is dead. He died at 1 o'clock this afternoon in Parkland Hospital 45 minutes ago. Governor Connelly, with bullet wounds clearly visible, I don't know how many, it's unconfirmed yet, was hit below the shoulder blade and apparently not directly in the chest as had first been feared. But he is in the operating room now, according to our information, Joe.
Correct, and the last sacrament of the Roman Catholic Church was at shortly before 1 o'clock, shortly before he died.
shot to death, as we've told you, by an assassin in the streets of Dallas. He was fired at by a sniper. He also hit Texas Governor John Connelly. The president, 44 years old, was shot once in the head, and that's official now. The president, 44 years of age, was shot once in the head. Connelly was hit both in the head and in the wrist, and that's new information, that Connelly was hit in the head and the wrist. Police have now found a foreign-made rifle. Sheriff's officers are questioning a young man who was picked up at the scene. The president was conscious as he arrived at the hospital, despite the fact that he had been struck in the head by a bullet. Father Huber from the Holy Trinity Roman Catholic Church was called, administered the last rites of the church. Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson, who now becomes President of the United States, was in a car behind the Kennedys and Connollys. And he is to be sworn into office, as we predicted, just momentarily, as soon as possible. He was rushed to the hospital, and then the president-elect, or president-designate, Vice President Johnson, was whisked away by Secret Servicemen. His whereabouts are, of course, being kept secret at this moment of crisis because the assassin possibly would like to strike again.
Mrs. Kennedy remains at the hospital as the presidential limousine sped to the hospital with the two wounded men in it. The president, cradled in his wife's arms, was rushed in the blood-splattered limousine into the emergency area.
Joe,
yes.
It has been confirmed that a Secret Service agent was killed as well.
We had an unofficial report that he had been killed during the assassination attempt, and now it is official. Not only the president has been killed, but a Secret Service agent assigned to guard his life also was killed by the assassin.
John Fitzgerald Kennedy, a bit of discrepancy on the news wires, was 45 years old. He was in his first term of office, shot and killed as he rode in a motorcade through downtown Dallas. Governor John Connelly of Texas, shot in the head and wrist, was also wounded by the assassin, is undergoing surgery now. The president and his wife had flown to Texas yesterday for a 2-day swing through 5 cities. They flew to Dallas this morning from Fort Worth, arriving at 11:30. The president, shot, expired at 1 p.m., 48 minutes ago. Mrs. Kennedy held her husband's limp body in her arms as the president toppled over into the back seat of the open car. He was rushed to the emergency room at Parkland Hospital. Priests, doctors going to his side, given the last rites of his church. Short time later, the President of the United States was dead at 1 p.m.
Almost within minutes after the assassination was made known, the President's father and mother, who are presently in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, had been notified that he had been shot and wounded. But at the time they were notified of the wounding, the President still was alive.
It was curious that the President, although shot in the head and mortally wounded in being so shot, remained conscious, apparently, on the drive to the hospital, Parkland Hospital, because it has been observed that the president's lips were seen to be moving normally. He apparently was talking to his wife or addressing someone else in the ambulance on the way, but apparently remained conscious a good bit of time after he had been hit in the head by the slug.
Gordon, the last head of state to be assassinated was in 1960, July 14th, when Japanese Premier Kishi was stabbed 6 times by a fanatic who jumped up on a stage while he was actually making a speech and assassinated him in full view of the audience. And here today, the President of the United States shot down in full view of thousands of Dallasites who had lined the downtown streets to watch his motorcade go by. It still is a tremendous shock to those people who had seen him alive and so hearty and well not too many minutes ago. Those of us who were at Love Field and those who witnessed the motorcade and had reported it, it all had gone so smoothly. And then this black tragedy descends over Dallas and the nation and the free world.
As you have mentioned, Joe, although the Japanese premier in 1960 was the last official assassination of a head of state, this is the second time in American history that a Johnson will have succeeded to the presidency upon the assassination of a president. Andrew Johnson having, of course, become president of the United States upon the death of Abraham Lincoln in the immediate post-Civil War period. The wounds to Governor Connelly are unascertainable as yet in their seriousness. We know from the United Press bulletin so far and from our correspondent, KLIF correspondent at Parkland, that the governor was hit in the head and in the wrist. He is in emergency surgery now. We haven't got a clue here at this moment as to the seriousness of his wounds, but of course, if the head wound is more than a mere scratch, it is obviously a serious wound. A Secret Service officer was also killed in the attack upon the president. His identity is as yet unknown. The president's father and mother have been notified. The president was cradled in the arms of his wife, Jackie, as the president's limousine sped to Parkland Hospital for the administration of the unsuccessful attempt to save his life. We're just looking at a new bulletin just arriving, Joe.
This late bulletin, the president was shot in the right temple. It was a simple matter of a bullet right through the head. This is a quote from Dr. George Berkeley, the White House medical officer. The shooting occurred as the motorcade passed through downtown, right near a grassy knoll at the street where the motorcade was moving along. The president died at 1 o'clock. Mrs. Kennedy, seated directly next to the president, was not shot. She was not injured, and neither was Mrs. Connelly, although both of their husbands, seated directly next to them, were shot, and the president, of course, killed. Vice President Johnson is under heavy guard. He's been taken from Parkland Hospital by White House and Secret Service officials. His location is unknown. He now is the president designate of the United States.
And here is the only breath of good news for the moment. Governor Connelly reported in satisfactory condition at Parkland Hospital. Governor John Connelly of Texas reported in satisfactory condition. Johnson, Vice President Johnson, left the hospital under heavy guard moments after he was informed of the president's death. Traveling behind a police escort with his wife, Lady Bird Johnson, they headed for seclusion somewhere in Midtown Dallas. No one knows where right now. Obviously, the sniper might want to strike again. Presumably, Johnson and his staff will go right to work on plans for taking a formal oath of office to succeed the slain President John Kennedy. As we pointed out, it has been the custom in American history to inaugurate the new president as immediately as possible. They woke Andrew Johnson up at his home in the middle of the night after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in the 1860s, and the startled vice president was administered the oath of office and became the president upon the death of Lincoln. So we can assume that either this afternoon in Dallas or certainly early this evening, Lyndon Baines Johnson will be the new president of the United States by inauguration upon the assassination of Kennedy.
Gordon police have found a foreign-make rifle in the vicinity of the fatal shooting. Sheriff's officers have a young man they picked up at the scene. At first, a spectator had grabbed up his daughter and dashed from the scene, and he was the first man arrested. They thought perhaps he had fired the shots because of his attempt to leave the location. Vice President Johnson, of course, in the same motorcade, uninjured. Witnesses said they heard 3 loud bursts of gunfire. The shots appeared to have come from a grassy knoll near the street where the motorcade was moving. And in the turmoil, it was impossible to tell whether the Secret Service agents and police returned the gunfire, but one Secret Service agent did lose his life during this assassination today.
We're attempting to gain the identity of that Secret Service agent who was also fatally wounded in the successful assassination attempt, and we have not been able to find it yet, but we will certainly discover it before much longer if the Secret Service sees fit to release it. Governor Connelly, in satisfactory condition, that's the latest word. The only bright spot in this tragic, horrible, unbelievable event in American history, the second assassination in this 20th century of an American president. News from Radio Moscow now.
Moscow's radio commentator in mournful tones has announced the assassination of President Kennedy. He told the Russians, and these were the words of the Moscow broadcast, "It is said he has been murdered by the extreme right-wing element." And we are quoting Radio Moscow. The Senate adjourned even before it was announced the president had expired. Senate adjournment came about moments after it was announced that he had been wounded. The stock markets have closed, and it is indeed a Black Friday in the history of the United States of America, but most particularly in the history of Dallas.
This is, of course, the second incident, and obviously they can hardly be compared in their importance, in the city of Dallas in the last month. You will recall that Adlai Stevenson was pushed, shoved, and perhaps spat upon by some dissident elements when he visited the city of Dallas about a month ago. And here now we have, of course, the ultimate in tragedy, the assassination of a president of the United States.
Here is a further report from Parkland Hospital, Gordon, on the condition of Governor Connelly, which had a moment ago been reported satisfactory. He now is reported in serious condition and suffering great pain. He gasped out to an aide in the emergency room, "Take care of Nellie." Nellie, of course, being Mrs. Connelly. But now this late word from Parkland, Governor Connelly reported in serious condition and great pain.
Well, that's a tragic change from the moment ago when we had him reported in satisfactory condition. It would be worthwhile noting that in the tragic, and it's hard to even speculate upon it, in the event that Governor Connelly should also have been stricken by the assassin's gunfire, the new governor of the state of Texas would be Preston Smith, the lieutenant governor, but God forbid. Vice President Johnson under heavy guard right now, with assassins obviously still at large, because this apparently is the work of more than one man. A cluster of rifle bullets, husks from bullets, have been found on the 5th floor of the Sexton building, from which the assassination attempt and successful assassination attempt began.
FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover has immediately made all of his agents and facilities available to Dallas authorities to help apprehend those guilty of the assassination of the president. Hoover telephoned city officials just moments after receiving the word of the shooting and the death of the president. It is reported now Vice President Johnson, in seclusion, has begun making plans to be sworn into office as the 36th President of the United States.
A bulletin here in just a moment. Joe Long's gone to the phone now for it. We reported to you earlier that Governor Connelly was apparently in satisfactory condition. Now the report comes that he is not in satisfactory condition. He is in serious condition, in great pain. As in the hospital a few moments ago, he gasped out to an aide, "Take care of Nellie," Nellie being his wife. Deadly gunfire ripping down the President of the United States today. Second successful assassination attempt in the history of the 20th century in the United States. The last chief of state assassinated, the Japanese premier, stabbed to death in 1960. It has been undetermined yet whether the Secret Service fired at the assassins from the building, because downtown, the moment that the 3 separate bursts of gunfire rang out, there was a scene of wild pandemonium and confusion, as of course you can well imagine. The president raced to the hospital, cradled in his wife Jackie's arms, was taken directly, not in an ambulance, but in his limousine. It was deemed that there was no time to move him to an ambulance. They went straight in the blood-spattered limousine. Urgent call went out for neurosurgeons and blood, but it was too late. The president, shot in the left temple, died at 1 o'clock Dallas time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. News of the assassin's attack on President Kennedy hit Congress like a thunderbolt this afternoon. The leadership reacting with comments of, "Oh, God," and "This is terrible." Senate Democratic leader Mike Mansfield of Montana called to the Senate cloakroom telephone and informed of the news flash about the attack on the chief executive in Texas, Governor John Connelly. "I can't even find words," Mansfield said after a hushed pause. "My God." So, the President of the United States is dead. Lyndon Baines Johnson makes plans immediately to be inaugurated, as is the custom in American history. It has been the custom to inaugurate the vice president as immediately as possible after the assassination of a president. This was the case. After President Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater, they woke Vice President Johnson in the middle of the night, inaugurated him at his home. It's doubtful if we'll be without a president for more than another couple or 3 hours. I don't know whether a justice of the United States Supreme Court is immediately available here or not, but certainly one will be flown in within just a couple of hours to inaugurate the vice president. The Senate, of course, adjourned immediately. The stock exchange closed immediately. The KLIF teletypes are clogged, of course, with news from throughout the world. The whole world remains in a hush of anticipation, a shiver of dread, a sense of disbelieving, a sense of incredulity, as the President of the United States has been assassinated in Dallas by an unknown sniper or snipers. One young fellow being held in custody already, Joe.
Gordon, Roy Nichols at Parkland Hospital finally has found a way to contact us. All of the lines out there have been jammed for some time. Here is his first official report from the scene where a news conference has been held.
Malcolm Gilduff, the Assistant Press Secretary with the Presidential Party, made the announcement just a few moments ago to press representatives hastily called together in Parkland press room. Gilduff started off saying, John F. Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time today here in Dallas. That was all he had to say, except it was a gunshot wound in the brain. Reporters asked him for other details. He says, I have no other details. He was asked if Mrs. Kennedy was hit. She was not, said Gilduff. How is Governor Connelly? He is in serious condition with bullet wounds in the wrist and the side. Where is Vice President Johnson? Has he taken the oath of office? I do not know, said Assistant Press Secretary Gilduff. At the moment, his movements are secret and will be in the future. I do not know whether he has taken the oath of office as president or not. But John F. Kennedy is dead as of approximately 1 o'clock this afternoon. At Parkland, when the news was broken to people outside the emergency room, there was a great shout of, oh no, but it was true, and it happened here in Dallas. There has been another shooting. We do not know at this time whether it is of the Secret Service agent, but there was a shooting a moment ago of a police officer in the 500 block of West Jefferson in Oak Cliff, and he was dead on arrival at Methodist. It'll take some time to put all these details together, but a very white face with tears in his eyes, perspiration streaming down his face, a very shocked Malcolm Gilduff, the Assistant Press Secretary, told an equally shocked gathering of news reporters, President Kennedy is dead with a bullet wound in the brain. This is Roy Nichols from Parkland Hospital.
Roy, as you monitor, continue to give us the information directly from Parkland. KLIF will hold to this news story throughout the afternoon and evening. There will be a complete abandonment of normal programming. Joe Long, who is sitting by my side, was the official pool reporter assigned to report to all radio and television stations in the city of Dallas on the arrival of the president at 11:30 this morning. And Joe so did. Would you describe that event as the president arrived at the airport this morning, Joe?
Gordon, Vice President Lyndon Johnson's plane was the first of the official party planes to arrive. He and Lady Bird descended the stairway, and she was presented a large bouquet of yellow California roses, which had been specially flown in for this occasion. Then came the presidential plane. The President and Mrs. Kennedy descended the stairs, and Mrs. Kennedy was given a bouquet of brilliant red roses. And it is perhaps rather significant that she had carried these red roses in her lap. But then those roses were, in the excitement of the shooting, pushed aside, and her husband's head took the place of those roses in the First Lady's lap, where he reclined until reaching the emergency facilities at Parkland Hospital.
Joe, I think it would be worthwhile for you to review again your own thoughts as to the irony of the removal of the plexiglass plate over the president's car.
It had been at first advisable, they thought, the Secret Service authorities thought, just to use a Dallas automobile for the motorcade. But then when bad weather threatened, as far back as 2 days ago, the long-range forecast said the possibility of rain in Dallas on Friday, they determined to fly the president's official White House limousine by Air Force transport plane to Dallas so that the large plexiglass dome would be there. This protects the president from the elements and also is designed to protect him from assassins' bullets or any other objects that might be hurled in his direction. Then, when the weather fared today, they removed the plexiglass dome and drove the official limousine from its hangar hiding place across Love Field over to the reception area. The president at first got into the limousine, then departed it and walked along the fence, shaking hands with the spectators. Mrs. Kennedy was by his side, and some 30 feet behind, the Vice President and Mrs. Johnson also shaking hands. Then the limousine pulled up to where they had concluded their handshaking tour. Inside was Connelly, very gallantly standing in the doorway with his hat removed to allow the President and First Lady to take their seats in the very rear of the automobile. Then he and Mrs. Connelly sat in the jump seats, or those small seats directly behind the front seat.
Had the weather been bad, the President would be alive at this moment.
Perhaps he would. This plexiglass dome, very especially constructed for this purpose, was believed to be bulletproof. But there is that possibility that had the weather held, and we were all so grateful at Love Field for the sakes of the spectators and all of those involved in the coverage of this event, that the wind diminished, the clouds broke away, the rain stopped, of course, and a brilliant sun greeted the President today. And then the plexiglass dome was removed, and he began his fateful and final ride, that through downtown Dallas.
Joe, as we wait for the inauguration of Vice President Johnson in this solemn, sober moment in the history of a nation, it's worth noting that 3 of the last 4 presidents of the United States have also faced bullets of an assassin. Of the nation's 34 presidents, 3 have been killed in office. Remembering back to November 1st, 1950, when 2 Puerto Ricans tried to shoot their way into Blair House across from the White House, where President Harry Truman was then staying. One of those gunmen was killed, the other serving a life term. And then on February 15th, 1933, anarchist Joseph Zangara shot at President-elect Franklin Roosevelt in Miami. The bullet narrowly missed Roosevelt, but it did kill Mayor Anton Cermak of Chicago. And today, for the 3rd time in the last 4 presidents, came the assassination attempt on President Kennedy, this time faithfully a successful one. Of the last 4 men elected to the White House, only Dwight Eisenhower, ironically enough, the great fighter and general, saw no attempt on his life. Only Eisenhower. The presidents killed, the 3 presidents in our history, by an assassin were Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, and William McKinley. And we're awaiting word here on the gravity of the situation with Governor John Connelly. We know he was shot in the head and in the ear, that he is in great pain. Early reports that his condition was satisfactory have been belied by the later reports which say that his condition is serious and that he is in great pain. Joe?
Gordon, getting back to this Love Field motorcade, it's strange, those of us who are in constant contact and exposed day and night to the police emergency radio, where all of the calls and dispatches are heard, we were driving through the monstrous traffic jam that resulted after the presidential motorcade had departed for the Trade Mart. And suddenly, once we broke clear of this traffic, there came through the call, there has been a Signal 19, a shooting, in other words, in the downtown Dallas area. All downtown units proceed code 3, meaning at top speed with sirens and red lights on, to the vicinity of Elm and Houston and establish blockade. That was our first hint that it was the motorcade.
We have a statement by Dr. W.T. White, the superintendent of schools of Dallas County, of the city of Dallas, rather, about the condition in the schools, the fact that they will remain open for the remainder of the afternoon, but Dr. White's words will speak better than ours. So we'll take you now directly to Dr. W.T. White.
The principals of the schools have been asked to fly the flags at half-mast. We're not dismissing school until regular time, inasmuch as transportation and the care of children at home will not be provided if we found situations around the city where any parent who wishes to come to the school to pick up his children may do so. The game scheduled to be played between Woodrow Wilson and South Oak Cliff tonight has been called off.
Superintendent W.T. White of the Dallas school system, we might mention that, ironically, tragically enough, another policeman has been killed this afternoon in an accident or killing quite unrelated to the assassination of President Kennedy and the wounding and grave wounding of Governor John Connelly. Gordon McClendon and Joe Long here in KLIF News, and we'll continue to report to you throughout the afternoon and the evening. There will be no doubt an inauguration of Vice President Johnson either this afternoon later or early this evening. It has been the custom in the past history of the United States upon the assassination of presidents to inaugurate the vice president, and as immediately as possible. That will be done in this instance. It may be that at this moment, a Supreme Court justice is winging from Washington to inaugurate the Vice President of the United States.
Gordon, in checking our files, it is indicated that never do they allow 12 hours to elapse between the time of the President's death and the inauguration of the Vice President, provided the Vice President is geographically located so that it is convenient to administer the oath within that brief span of time.
It would be worthwhile, Joe, reviewing some of the details of the President's death. He was shot in the left temple. There is evidence that he lived for a while on his way to the hospital. His lips were seen to be moving normally, at least according to some reports. A single shot through the right temple took the life of the 46-year-old chief executive of the United States, third American president to be gunned down by Slayer's bullets. Kennedy was shot as he rode in an open car here in downtown Dallas, waving, smiling to a crowd of thousands, estimated as high as 250,000. Vice President Lyndon Johnson, nation's new president, was in that same cavalcade, but he was a number of car lengths behind. He wasn't hurt, but he was terribly shot. Johnson has a record of heart illness, and he was whisked off under heavy guard to be sworn in just as quickly as possible. He will be the 36th President of the United States. Messages of sympathy are pouring in from all over the world. Radio Moscow has already commented in dirgeful tones that it was the work of extreme right-wingers. Mrs. Jacqueline Kennedy, riding in the same car with her husband, she was not hurt. She cradled her husband's head in her arms as he sped dying to the hospital. There was an immediate call for blood, but the blood arrived too late. At 1 o'clock, the president was dead.
Only 5 minutes before the president expired, the last sacrament of the Roman Catholic Church was administered. Immediately upon the arrival of his official limousine at Parkland Hospital, a dispatch was put out for a Catholic priest to make it to Parkland just as quickly as possible. Father Huber from the Holy Trinity Roman Catholic Church was called in. He administered the last rites of the church. Another priest who has not allowed his name to be used had given the first indication that the president's condition was terminal, that he could not survive.
Yes, and Governor Connelly is in serious condition and in great pain, having been shot through the head and in the right wrist by these amazingly accurate assassin's bullets. It would be interesting to note that President Kennedy's last official statements took place in Fort Worth this morning. He said, in the last words of a president due to die only a matter of a few hours later, in fact, only a matter of 2 hours later, Kennedy said that next month, the most powerful rocket booster in history, the Saturn, would put America well in front of the Soviets in the space race. That booster will be tested at Cape Canaveral. In another speech at Fort Worth, the president was defending the TFX fighter plane as a vital cog in the United States defense system. And these were virtually his last words. He called conservative attacks on his policies as just plain nonsense, and he criticized voices preaching doctrines wholly unrelated to reality as wholly unsuited to the 1960s. So the president's last official words were those in Fort Worth this morning as he made two different addresses, Joe.
And in Fort Worth this morning, Governor Connelly rose to greet the president, and he said, "We thank you for coming to see us here in Texas. You have brought us rain, and you have brought sunshine into our hearts." And then came this tragedy this morning when the president was gunned down by an assassin's bullet. He was struck directly in the right temple. One bullet in the head, and the president is dead. This is another tragedy to strike the Kennedy family in recent months. It was not too many months ago that the first family was saddened by the loss of their third child. And now here another tragedy strikes, even while Mrs. Kennedy is still only recovering from the loss of the family's third child, and perhaps the two most highly publicized children in the world, the two young Kennedy children, now
have lost their father. And of course, this has been a family that in the last few years has been riddled by tragedy. The president's death today might have been in some way foreordained by the events that have presaged it in the last few years. We will recall, of course, that one of the Kennedy boys was lost during the war, that President Kennedy's father suffered a serious illness and operation while the president was in the early stages of his administration. And then, of course, as Joe has just told you, the president's wife having lost a child not too long ago. And here now, the final denouement, the culmination of a series of Kennedy family tragedies, the death of the President of the United States himself.
Moscow Radio says just now it is officially announced that President Kennedy has passed away. It is supposed that the murder was done by persons of the extreme right-wing element. Those were the words of Radio Moscow. Soviet Premier Khrushchev is believed to have been in South Russia today near the Black Sea coast when Moscow got the news of the president's death. Sources assume that Khrushchev was informed of the assassination by way of an internal Russian hotline circuit. Gordon?
Besides the president in the famous bubble-top limousine was, of course, as you well know, Texas Governor John B. Connelly, and he was shot in the chest. Now, this shows you the extent of confusion that goes on in the reporting of these events where the matter is of such earth-shaking moment. Because we have now received reports that Connelly was shot just underneath the shoulder, that he was shot in the chest, that he was shot in the head, that he was shot in the wrist. All that we can tell you certainly is that the governor is in serious condition and in great pain. That has been confirmed. Where he was shot, the gravity of his injuries, except the fact that he is in serious condition, we have no accurate report on, Joe.
The last report from Parkland Hospital, and that was the one called in by Roy Nichols after he had attended a news conference conducted by an assistant press secretary from the White House, was that Governor Connelly had been shot in the side and in the wrist. And that was from a White House spokesman.
Mrs. Connelly was also in that car, and she was unharmed. The death of President Kennedy, first Roman Catholic president of the United States, in Dallas on a politicking mission for a second term. He was smiling broadly as he rode through downtown streets, unaware that these moments were his last. And then the man at curbside only 15 feet away, then that awful look crossed his face. The identity of the assassin or assassins was not immediately known, but sheriff's officers here in Dallas have taken a young man into custody at the scene, and they are questioning him behind closed doors, and you can imagine that he is receiving a rather thorough questioning. A Dallas television reporter said he saw a rifle being withdrawn from a window on the 5th or 6th floor of an office building shortly after the gunfire. And as we were being carried to this KLIF newsroom in a Dallas police car, the word came through, and it confirms what the television reporter said he saw, that on the 5th floor of the Sexton building from which the assassination attempt took place, a successful assassination attempt, 5 or 6 bullet husks were found. So that's definite that someone did see a man on the 5th or 6th floor. Lyndon Johnson under heavy guard, physicians and members of the White House staff attending him, KLIF having abandoned all other programming, as I'm sure stations throughout the United States have, and we'll be on the air throughout the day and night to bring you all details on the condition of Governor Connelly. A Secret Service man was also killed, and in quite an independent tragedy, ironically enough, another Dallas policeman was killed this afternoon, and he was quite unrelated to the death of the president.
Gordon, we have the security arrangements which were so tight here, but when any president or any other person rides through such a huge crowd, it is impossible to cover every foot of space and prevent such a thing being attempted, much less being carried out successfully. But the security measures involving the president and vice president are unique and very well thought out. Vice President Johnson never occupies the same airplane as the president, should they both be killed in a common accident. Their cars are separated by many feet in a motorcade. And, of course, Lyndon Johnson had for so long wanted to be president, but doubtless this was not a prize he wanted in achieving that office.
Not the way he wanted to become president, obviously. White House Secretary Malcolm Kilduff has just announced that the president's body will be flown to Washington this afternoon. White House Secretary Malcolm Kilduff announcing that the body of President Kennedy will be flown to Washington this afternoon. And the Dallas Sheriff's Department says now that a rifle has been found in a staircase on the 5th floor of a building near the scene of the assassination. Princess Lee Radziwill, the sister of Mrs. Kennedy, has just been informed of the assassination at her home in London. She announced that she is going to fly to the United States early tomorrow. In Stockholm, Swedish Prime Minister Tage Erlander commented only, "I don't want to say anything now." At The Hague, in Holland, a Foreign Office spokesman says the Netherlands government expresses deep felt horror about the terrible attack on President Kennedy. Deep and strong sympathy is felt in all Holland, both for the American people and President Kennedy, said the Foreign Office at The Hague. In Holland, radio bullets were heard in greatest shock. The radio bulletins, that is, and the news given at once to Queen Juliana. Joe?
These reactions from persons on the downtown streets of London coming in on our KLIF oceanic wires. From a lawyer, "I can't believe it. It's the worst thing that could happen. He's a great friend of this country." From a secretary, "Oh no, it cannot be true. Who possibly would want to do this?" And others with equal disbelief in their statements. The rifle that has been found in the building in downtown is a 7.65 Mauser, a German-made Army rifle. It was equipped with a telescopic sight with only one shell left in the chamber, and 3 spent shells were found nearby.
Yes, Joe. And in Holland, as we've said, the news given at once to Queen Juliana, she said, "My God, how could such a thing have happened?" The Queen of the Netherlands. President Kennedy shot in the right temple, and he was apparently alive in the arms of his wife, Jackie, as he was sped in his limousine on his way to Parkland Hospital. His lips seemed to be moving apparently at normal rate of speed, so the president was alive, apparently at least, on his way to Parkland Hospital, but he lived only a few minutes thereafter, dying at 1 o'clock this afternoon from the sniper's bullets. Governor John Connelly in serious condition, in great pain, and that rifle, which has been found by the Dallas Police Department, is a 7.65 Mauser, German-made Army rifle, which had a telescopic sight it would have had for such accurate shooting, with 1 shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells were found nearby. Now, that coincides with all the reports we've had earlier that there were 3 separate bursts of gunfire. That being the case, it comes perfectly into the statement from the Dallas Police Department now that 3 spent shells were found nearby. And yet it contradicts with the report which we heard in driving up in the Dallas police car a while ago, that 5 or 6 empty rifle husks had been found on the 5th floor of the Sexton building. President Kennedy's mother and father have now been advised that their son was shot in Dallas. They are in Hyannisport. Princess Lee Radziwill has been informed. The body of President Kennedy being flown back to Washington this afternoon. We await, and I think it's a matter of imminence, the inauguration of Lyndon Baines Johnson as President of the United States. Joe?
Gordon, as I departed Love Field shortly after the motorcade left for its tour through downtown Dallas, a hasty look back over the left shoulder, seeing how heavily the traffic was jammed up. And there sat Air Force One, the giant presidential jet, which had brought this party in here for a happy occasion, standing there waiting, and I thought, well, within a matter of a couple of hours, the President and Mrs. Kennedy and the official party will be boarding the plane. They were to go to Bergstrom Air Force Base at Austin and then spend tonight and part of tomorrow at Vice President Johnson's ranch, the LBJ ranch nearby. But now, that plane, Air Force One, will be on its grimmest mission of all, and that is to return the President's body to the Capitol.
Senator Edward Kennedy, Ted Kennedy, the President's younger brother, was presiding over the Senate when he was told of his brother's death. Attorney General Robert Kennedy had gone home to McLean, Virginia, for lunch when the news came to him. So all of the Kennedy family apparently have now been informed. We've heard no word about Sergeant Shriver yet. Speaker John McCormick, visibly affected. Senate GOP leader Dirksen said this is the most disastrous thing that could hit this nation. The President's mother and father, as we've informed you, were at Hyannisport, Massachusetts when the word came. She's 72, and the elder Kennedy, who has not been well, as you know, he's undergone some serious surgery, is 75. He suffered a stroke in December of 1960, never has fully recovered. Secretary of State Rusk and other cabinet members were aboard a plane bound for Japan, and that plane immediately turned back between Honolulu and Tokyo and is now headed back for the United States. This, of course, of worldwide significance, and all American cabinet officers, all key American personnel will be ordered home with the assassination of the president. Ms. Kennedy has been a tremendous hit on her visit to Texas, the first visit of this two-day visit. She was seated just in front of her husband, and after the shot, the president slumped over on the back seat, and she screamed. The interior of the car was literally splattered with blood as the bullet ripped into the president's right temple. Mrs. Kennedy took her husband's head in her arms and bent over him. Mrs. Connelly was kneeling over her husband, who lay face down on the floor of the car, and the president being beyond help, having died at 1 o'clock this afternoon. The attention of the nation for the moment will be riveted upon the condition of Texas Governor John Connelly, who is in serious condition and in great pain. It's been reported that he was shot through the chest, head, wrist. We know none of these to be accurate. We can only say that possibly, the first reports are more accurate, that he was shot through the chest. We know that he's undergone emergency surgery. The President died at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's an emergency announcement from the Dallas Telephone Company. The Dallas Telephone Company has asked KLIF to request that the public refrain from calling Parkland Hospital. Do not call Parkland Hospital. We repeat this emergency announcement from the Dallas Telephone Company. The public is requested not to call Parkland Hospital. The lines are overloaded. They are needed for emergency use of worldwide importance as cabinet members are summoned back, as Supreme Court Justice members are summoned to administer the oath of office to Vice President Lyndon Johnson. And so, out there, to all of the public of Dallas, the government of the United States appeals to you through the medium of the Dallas Telephone Company not to call Parkland Hospital. President Kennedy's mother and father have been advised now that their son was shot in Dallas. They're up in Hyannisport. The mother is 72, Mr. Kennedy's 75, and he, of course, will have great difficulty with the announcement. He's been a very sick man anyway. Suffered a stroke in December 3 years ago, 1960. Never has fully gotten back on his feet yet. Now, they've found the rifle with which the president was apparently shot. A 7.65 Mauser, German-made Army rifle. It had a telescopic sight, would have had such accuracy from the fifth floor of a building, a good bit above the president's touring motorcade. When the Dallas police found it, it had one shell left in the chamber. They found 3 more spent shells nearby, just husks of rifle bullets. All over the world, the reports are coming into Dallas. The comments of the world. Princess Lee Radziwill, sister-in-law of the president, sister of Jackie Kennedy, informed of the assassination at her London home. She announces she's going to fly to the United States immediately, early tomorrow morning. The Hague, Princess Juliana, or Queen Juliana, says, "My God, how could such a thing have happened?"
Gordon, we have a late report. Roy Nichols standing by at Parkland Hospital with the very latest details from that location.
President Kennedy body was removed from Parkland Hospital just a few moments ago, approximately 2:05, taken away in a place we believe to be Archbishop next Washington for the press conference. Press all here in the press conference from Parkland Hospital. The doctors brought into the emergency room. Found President Kennedy to be in critical condition with a wound in the neck and the head. He said on his immediate examination, this is Dr. Malcolm Terry, he saw that the president was in a moribund condition, near death, and resuscitation would be to no avail. Immediately, Dr. Kent Clark, chief of neurosurgery here at Parkland Hospital, was called in. Resuscitation was tried, however, as an emergency measure. Dr. Clark was summoned along with other members of the staff. Dr. Perry says that blood was administered to the president. Oxygen was given to him. A tracheal tube was put in his windpipe to assist his breathing. A tracheotomy was performed. And other emergency measures. An electrocardiogram monitor was attached to his heart to measure the heartbeat. There was a heartbeat at that time. Blood and fluids were also administered. At this point, Dr. Kent Clark, the neurosurgeon, arrived. Dr. Clark took over the briefing to the men and said that he saw a deep brain wound on the back of the head on the right side. He described the resuscitation and the tracheotomy and talked about the possibility of an operation, but said it was of no use. He said it was apparent at that time that the president had sustained a lethal wound. He said the missile had gone in or out the back of his head shortly after I arrived. That's the neurosurgeon. He had lost his heart action. There was no reading on the electrocardiogram. Resuscitation was tried. Massage of the heart externally. This is putting hands on the chest without cutting into the chest cavity and pushing up and down to try to get the heart going again. There was no heartbeat at this time when the doctor had arrived, but he says there was a pulse, as he called it, a palpable pulse, but still no heartbeat. They tried the external chest massage, but it did no good, and then the pulse faded away, and the president was dead. Asked exactly what time the president died, the neurosurgeon said, I'm not sure. There were so many of us in attendance, and we all agreed it was about, let us say, 1 o'clock Central Time. He was asked how long it was before the president died after he arrived at the emergency room. He said, I would guess about 40 minutes. There was some discussion about the wounds to the president. One doctor, the neurosurgeon, described it, that's Dr. Clark, described it as a wound in the back of the head. Dr. Perry, who was trying to keep the president alive until Dr. Clark arrived, said there was a wound in the neck also. Neither one would speculate whether one was the entrance and exit from one bullet or whether there were 2 shots that hit the president. But Dr. Clark said one wound was right below the atom sample, and the other wound was in the back of the head, which would tend to indicate that the bullet came from 5 or 6 floors up the police tank in a building down at Elm and Harwood, entered the back of his head and went out below the atom sample. The president's body has been removed from Parkland, and we have no word on the condition of Governor Connelly at this time. The 2 doctors were called in mainly to discuss the fatal wounding of President Kennedy. Roy Nichols from Parkland Hospital.
That's the latest report from Parkland Hospital. KLIF's Roy Nichols, who has been there since almost immediately after the shooting. Other KLIF reporters have been located at the strategic points throughout Dallas, any place that has a connection with the coverage of this tragic story, the assassination today of President John F. Kennedy. Sidelight, a Dallas policeman was shot and killed today as he chased a suspected assassin of the president through a movie theater in the Oak Cliff section. This was a suspected assassin. The Dallas County Sheriff's Office picked up what is believed to be the man who is believed to be the most prime suspect, approximately 25 years old. The assassination weapon, a foreign-made, a German-made rifle, has been located. It was equipped with telescopic sights
one shell still in the chamber. 3 spent shells were found.
Also, Washington now, Joe, is in a state of pandemonium. A dispatch from Washington says that the State Department extremely concerned that the nation is without a chief executive and thus vulnerable to surprise attack. That, of course, seems like an alarmist view on the situation.
I would appraise it that way, yes.
A dispatch from Washington on the succession of presidential powers is coming up, and we'll be getting all sort of things for you here.
Here is a late report. First of all, we had heard from Dr. White, the superintendent of the Dallas Independent School District, that parents desirous of removing their children from the schools earlier than the regular dismissal time would be allowed to do so. And an important sporting event, the Woodrow Wilson South Oak Cliff football game, has been called off.
And, Joe, the most important social event of the season in Dallas, by far the most important, the Crypto Charity Ball has been canceled, as of course would be appropriate. All proceeds received to date will be given to the Children's Medical Center as a memorial to the late President Kennedy.
Once again, we will summarize this tragic chain of events that has shocked the nation and the world.
We'll get something in a moment on Governor Connelly.
Absolutely, we will. Roy Nichols standing by at this moment at Parkland Hospital, constantly relaying the details to us as the events transpire there. He has attended 2 impromptu news conferences conducted, first of all, by the neurosurgeon who was in direct charge of the president's case, brief as it was, and also an assistant White House press secretary who first announced the demise of the president. We'll bring official details on Governor Connelly's condition just as soon as those details are made available.
Joe, it would be worthwhile saying here that this is perhaps the most complete surprise attack upon a president that has ever taken place. There were rumors in the attack upon President Roosevelt and Anton Cermak that such an attack would be made. There have been no such rumors in this case. And so, in the midst and posture of complete surprise, there was utter pandemonium among the Secret Service men and police motorcycle escorts when this attack took place. The bullets from the assassins struck home so suddenly that there was no chance whatever for the Secret Service men to hurl themselves around the president. And, of course, that they would have done to shield him from the attack had they had the slightest inkling or chance. Shortly after his arrival at Parkland Hospital, Father Oscar Huber of Holy Trinity Roman Catholic Church administered those last rites to the president, said there was no chance at the time, and the body has now been carried from Parkland Hospital in Dallas in a wooden casket and placed in a white Cadillac hearse. The drapes full. Mrs. Kennedy accompanied the body, and Lyndon Johnson is returning to Washington now. Lyndon Johnson returning to Washington. The presidential aide killed up, saying that Johnson is going to be in Washington by evening. He's expected to be sworn swiftly into office as the 34th President of the United States. Tremendous traffic jam developed around Parkland Hospital. It's still there. White House officials at the hospital standing by sorrowfully. Joe has something.
Yes, we have a late report from Roy Nichols at Parkland Hospital. We are ready now to switch to Roy Nichols at Parkland Hospital.
This is Roy Nichols at Parkland Hospital. Just a moment ago, a reporter came in and said all White House press reporters should go to the airport immediately. And we understand there is a rumor that Vice President Johnson is at the airport now and will take his oath of office at the airport and be president officially before taking off for the flight for Washington. The President Kennedy's body has been removed from Parkland Hospital and taken to the airport. We will go now to Love Field and witness and try to get some excerpts from Vice President Lyndon Johnson taking the oath of office as President of the United States after the assassination and victory of President Kennedy. Roy Nichols from Parkland Hospital.
That's the latest from Parkland Hospital. It is, at this point, actually unconfirmed that Vice President Johnson will be inaugurated there. But it has been reported, that is the rumor that is rampant at this moment. However, it is official that he is returning to Washington as quickly as possible.
The body will arrive in Washington at 5:30 this afternoon. The body will arrive in Washington at 5:30 this afternoon. The remains of President John Fitzgerald Kennedy, 33rd President of the United States, and Lyndon Baines Johnson in separate transportation, returning immediately. Johnson will be in Washington by evening. He's expected to be sworn swiftly into office. For agonizing minute after minute, there were conflicting rumors in this KLIF press room as to whether the president was still alive out there in Parkland Hospital, and then came the official announcement that John Fitzgerald Kennedy was dead. Outside the hospital, up until just a few moments ago, blood still being cleaned from the president's limousine. It was parked just outside the emergency entrance. And a note of tragedy and poignant, a yellow rose bouquet presented to Mrs. Kennedy at Dallas Love Field on their arrival a short time before still lay on the floor in the back of the car.
Gordon, we will repeat here that we do not have a late official statement on the condition of Governor John Connelly. The tragedy itself was compounded in the fact that these two chief executives, one the chief executive of the nation, the other the chief executive of the state of Texas, were wounded almost simultaneously in this vicious sniper attack. But Governor Connelly, at last report, was listed in serious condition and in great pain, having suffered what we believe to be 2 bullet wounds. The president apparently suffered only the one fatal shot, and Governor Connelly apparently had been shot twice. But he has been conscious during most of the time at Parkland Hospital. His press aides have talked with him, and we have had many quotes from the governor, which in itself is encouraging, but we have yet, at this moment, no official late word on the governor's condition.
Just to show you how swiftly action is taken, as it was upon the assassination of President Lincoln, Lyndon Johnson is expected to be sworn in as president aboard an airliner before flying immediately back to the nation's capital. So possibly at this very instant, as we are speaking, Vice President Lyndon Baines Johnson is becoming the President of the United States aboard an airliner at Love Field. Our dispatch showing that he is to be sworn in aboard an airliner before flying back to the nation's capital. Earlier reports indicated that he would fly back and be sworn in there. But the Vice President may become the President of the United States here in Dallas immediately now, and possibly is becoming that now. Let me tell you of some of the other reports we're going to give you from KLIF News in just a moment. We're going to give you a dispatch from KLIF News on the new president's political views, his history, his present health, the effect of the assassination on the 1964 presidential election, a dispatch from our KLIF correspondents in Washington as to what is going on now at the Pentagon and at the State Department during this grim period when the nation is still officially without a chief executive. We'll have an obituary from Washington on the president. Tragic as that may be, but it is necessary. Joe?
Gordon, the suspect the Dallas Police Department has in custody, they will not at this moment tell us whether they have determined he is the prime suspect in the assassination of the president. He is believed to be the man who shot and fatally killed a police officer during the chase in Oak Cliff. And this police officer reportedly was in chase with a suspect in the assassination. But all Dallas Police criminal intelligence agents have been called in, those who were off duty. The entire area is being combed more thoroughly than ever involved in any manhunt or search in the history of Dallas, the state, and perhaps the nation.
Yes, let's review that again. Quite independently of the death of the President of the United States, the death of a Secret Service officer, the grave wounding of the governor of Texas, another Dallas policeman, Officer J.D. Tippett, 38 years of age, was killed today as he and a fellow policeman, M.N. McDonald, ran into a rear exit of the Texas Theater. Tippett and McDonald, it developed, had received a tip that the assassin of President Kennedy might have gone into the theater. An usher told them that a man in a brown shirt had entered the darkened Texas Theater in Oak Cliff. just a few moments before. That would be a few moments after the assassination of President Kennedy, or at least the shooting of President Kennedy. According to police headquarters, Tippit fired a shot. That would have been in the Texas Theater. And McDonald rushed the suspect, and the suspect said, "It's all over now." And McDonald and the suspect sprawled over a seat in the theater. McDonald's face was slashed, a 4-inch gash, and the suspect was seized, and it may be that he is the prime suspect.
We have urgent word here on Governor Connelly's condition at Parkland Hospital. His office in Austin issues this officially. He is in the operating room. The doctors have opened the governor's chest. He will probably be there 2 more hours and undergo orthopedic surgery. Governor Connelly has probably 4 broken ribs and a confused or bruised lung. A lung was collapsed but has been reinflated. No serious artery damage to the heart. Blood pressure and pulse are still okay. So this, to our best estimate, in our weak medical knowledge, is an encouraging report on Governor Connelly's
Yes,
condition.
let's read it again. The report from Governor John Connelly's office in Austin on the governor's condition. You can follow this carefully. I'll read slowly. From KLIF News, Governor John Connelly is in the operating room at Parkland Hospital. The doctors have opened his chest. He will probably be there 2 more hours and undergo orthopedic surgery. The governor has probably 4 broken ribs and a confused, that would mean bruised, lung. 1 lung was collapsed, but has been reinflated. There was no serious artery damage to the heart. Governor Connelly's blood pressure, his pulse are still okay, unquote. That's KLIF News reporting from Austin as of 2:15 p.m. 2:15. That's some half hour ago. So he would still be in the Parkland operating room, Joe.
And here's another KLIF report just in from Austin. Lieutenant Governor Preston Smith has conducted a hasty news conference at the state capitol. He tells us he will not take over as Texas governor unless Governor Connelly asks him to. Said Smith, this day probably is the darkest day in the history of the great state of Texas. He called this assassination a barbaric action and said it simply has to be the act of a fanatic with a distorted mind. As Lieutenant Governor, I officially extend every sympathy possible to the President's family and Mrs. John Connelly. Smith, we repeat, said Connelly's staff had asked him to stand by at the Capitol. He was in Austin to attend the dinner scheduled tonight, welcoming the President. A 1-sentence press memorandum announced that the dinner had been canceled. But Lieutenant Governor Preston Smith in Austin tells Cliff News he will not take over as Texas governor unless Governor Connelly asks him to.
You know, you think of these things as happening in Central America, you think of them happening in Japan, and in countries without constitutional government here and there, but this sort of thing seems absolutely unbelievable and incomprehensible in the United States of America. Former President Dwight Eisenhower this afternoon calling the assassination of President Kennedy a despicable act. The former president, in a statement issued from his suite at a hotel in New York, said, "I share the sense of shock and dismay that all Americans feel at the despicable act that resulted in the death of our nation's president. Mrs. Eisenhower and I also join with all other citizens in expressing our personal grief and prayerful concern to Mrs. Kennedy and all other members of the staff." That statement issued by Eisenhower's aide, Brigadier General Robert Schultz. Other KLIF Bulletin, Joe?
In a matter of moments now, Vice President Lyndon Johnson will be President Lyndon Johnson of the United States. He is expected to be sworn in as president aboard an airliner before flying immediately back to Washington from Dallas. The vice president has been held in tight security seclusion at Parkland Hospital. He has now departed Parkland for the airport, and the swearing-in ceremony apparently will be held aboard the airliner, the special jet that will transport the new president back to Washington.
And of all the people who said, and there have been millions, that the Vice President of the United States, Lyndon Johnson, had been relegated to a role of obscurity, that he had little to do, that he was primarily a speechmaker and public relations man, that condition, of course, is if it had ever been true, about to change.
We have to go back again to this morning and Governor Connelly's greeting to President Kennedy at the Fort Worth breakfast. When Governor Connelly stood, he presented the president a Texas hat and a pair of Texas boots. And he said, "We thank you for coming to Texas. You have brought us rain, but above that, you have brought sunshine into our hearts." And suddenly that sunshine was erased, and a dark cloud descended over the entire nation and the entire free world as an unknown man, unknown but to himself, perhaps a few others, and to God, fired the fatal shot that took the life of the president.
Joe Long, managing editor of KLIF, who has just been addressing you, was the official pool designee for all Dallas radio and television stations. It was his voice that you heard covering the arrival of President Kennedy today at Love Field at 11:30 this morning, before the shots that rang around the world were heard. Joe observed a peculiarity in the president's arrival, an ironic stroke of fate, as because the weather was bright, a plexiglass dome that might have been protective was removed from the president's limousine. A comment on that, Joe?
Yes, Gordon. The plane that flew the president's special limousine from Washington, an Air Force transport, had arrived here late yesterday. The big limousine, the official White House car number 1, had been parked in a secluded hangar overnight, and it was under heavy guard. The plexiglass dome was there. It was there for use because as far back as Wednesday, we had the forecast that this would be a rainy day in Dallas. And the president was to be protected from the elements and yet be fully visible to the 250-some-odd thousand spectators who jammed the route of the motorcade. But then, as we stood in the rain this morning as early as 8 o'clock, getting all of our equipment in place and awaiting the arrival of the president and his official party, the skies broke, the sun came out, the wind diminished, the planes landed under sunny conditions, the plexiglass dome was not put in place, and the presidential car, completely open, began its motorcade and fatal route through downtown Dallas. The seating position inside the car, the president and Mrs. Kennedy were on the extreme back seat, and Governor Connelly and Mrs. Connelly were on the jump seats, or the small seats directly in front of the president and his first lady. A chauffeur and a Secret Service man occupied the front seats.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lyndon Johnson is President of the United States.
The swearing-in ceremony has been conducted aboard the presidential airliner at Dallas Love Field prior to the new president's return to Washington, D.C. The late President Kennedy, his body, also is departing Love Field almost at any moment for the return to Washington and the final departure ceremonies.
Lyndon Johnson becomes the first Texan ever to be President of the United States. I do not overlook in here Dwight Eisenhower, but Lyndon Johnson is now the first Texan, a Texan of both birth and life, to be President of the United States. Lyndon Johnson has just been sworn in aboard an airliner en route to Washington.